What is up? We're live. We got RevKev. It's been a good while. I'm glad to be back and having RevKev pick his brain about stuff.
Good to be back. It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. What do you call it? Let me add this link really quick. So if y'all want to support my channel, appreciate it. I'm not monetized currently, so I'm doing the grind to get back to that. So in the description, if you want to support the channel, it's for the making my comic, but it is a tip jar for the channel for the time being till I can get remonetized. So appreciate that. Otherwise, we got RevKev. His link is in the description under the big blurb of different articles. So go sub to him. His channel, what does all your proceeds go to?
The proceeds of the channel go to Compassion Canada. So Compassion is a child sponsorship program that helps to alleviate poverty in children all over the world. So I've gone on a number of their trips. I've been to Peru with them, and now we're doing specifically a project in Guatemala.
You know, it helps them not be in poverty, getting a job.
Well, when you said, this is kind of crazy, right? Because like in one of the areas that I went to go visit, like sadly, all the jobs that these kids are getting are not the jobs you want your kids to be in. Right.
Yeah, it's funny. The left, they love talking about how like shithole countries have a lot of parity in the gender of workers, male and female. And it's like, it's because everyone's getting what they can. So yeah, you have a lot of African female oil workers or digging up lithium in mines and cobalt because it's whatever they can get. They don't have the freedom to be gender specific like a nurse or a teacher, etc. like the West.
Yeah, you take what you get. Absolutely.
What's been biggest takeaway doing this mission work?
The things that we complain about and fight about here in our countries. I mean, I'm in Canada, but I mean, in North America is awfully petty compared to the struggles of the rest of the world.
M&Ms are woke.
So it really gives you a big, heavy dosage of perspective.
Yeah.
You know, when you go visit this little tiny village and every single young boy there is recruited by a drug cartel, or every single girl is recruited for a sex trade industry. And it's like, wow. And what we're complaining about up here is like, eesh. So it's just been amazing to kind of just see the work that they do. And they really do it locally. Like they really try to equip people locally in these villages, in these towns to, again, it's a faith-based organization. So they really want kind of the local church to be a bright spot in their community where people can go for food and shelter and safety and care. And it's just been amazing to see that. So it's really a joy to partner with them.
Nice. Yeah, I recently have gone to church, not as like a follower, but so I blew my engine in my Kia, and it turns out it's like a factory recall for my model. What happened? So they pay for it, but I had to pay out of pocket for my rental in the time being for like a month. They should reimburse me, but anyway, when it was funny because like I passed someone. And I got up to like 80. Then I was like slowing down to like get down to like the speed limit's like 50, 55, but I was going to be at like 60, 65. Reasonable speeding, but I zipped past them. And then I slowed down and like my car just won't go. And so I'm just coasting and I get down to like 30 and people behind me probably think, what an asshole making a point of like, I was going slow. Why you gotta like, I ended up pulling into a church driveway. It was a Tuesday, so I didn't think nothing of it. But I kept checking outside of like the gas company that I was staying at for until I could get like a tow truck. And I kept checking, and then people were coming like, "Oh crap!" Like I gotta make sure they don't tow my car. It's like in the middle of their driveway, and they ended up inviting me, and so I felt obligated to come to church as like sort of just a principle thing of like, well, these people will help me for a second, let me have coffee and donuts for their men's group. So Cool. So yeah, I have a church that I go to when I'm not working and I actually wake up in time. But it's more of to keep me engaged, because like if there's ever like a Christian based topic, I always rely on the Catholic view if I'm researching it, the argument. Right. That's like within Christianity, that's where I'm like, this is the truth of, I don't believe any of it, but this is what I'm going to like see what the argument is.
Right.
And the answer.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And so, but I'm going to this to keep my mind active, because if I went to like a Catholic church with a friend, then like I would just be hearing what I know. I wouldn't hear a different view on the book. So and also it keeps me engaged so I can educate Rookie, because he's not grown up with any of this. And so more and more I'm having to educate him about Christianity.
There you go.
Like with The Last of Us. Have you watched The Last of Us?
You know what? I haven't because and this is what's funny, because as someone who is a Christian, people make fun of me all the time. I don't like zombies.
So, I never connected zombies and Christianity as
it's the whole
but
you worship
Jesus resurrects,
risen Jesus, right?
Oh, so, okay.
So you like Jesus is the Walking Dead. Goes, no, it's not the same thing. It's not the same. I never
think of that as zombie. To me, it's like
no,
totally
I know
different.
Me neither, but other people do in geek culture. So
no,
zombie movies scare the crap out of me.
Like, well, that's good because there's hardly any zombies in this show, so that's perfect.
Well, they're plant people, aren't they? Like they're basically zombies.
Well, yeah, but
they're
a huge complaint.
Fungi zombies.
A huge complaint people have with the show is that there's not enough zombie stuff going on,
right?
Because it focuses on people and things. So it's like, there's only on occasion a zombie thing,
right?
That'd be fair. The few times they do have it, it'd probably be freaky. So
yeah, well, that was like everyone told me for years. You got to watch The Walking Dead. You'll love it. The characters are amazing. You'll love it. You'll love it. So I watched the first episode. With the little zombie girl in the parking lot, and the sheriff shoots her. I'm like, I'm out. Turn it off.
Yeah, that's enough.
I'm out. Like, not happening. Gave me nightmares for a month.
Yeah. Well, the reason I mentioned this is and why for one of many things. Well, let me backtrack a bit. Star Wars. Okay, we'll get in line first. So one day I was talking to Rookie and talking about how like. This is an idea that's floating around, but sometimes it's hard for me to articulate it, and I couldn't think of it at the moment. But then we're talking on the phone, and I was telling about how George Lucas is brilliant because Star Wars is the greatest plagiarism ever done.
Oh, big time. Yep.
And because it's a plagiarism of humanity in our history and mythology, like it's a big catch-all. Everyone can see themselves in some way, religiously and ethnically, culture, like the look of things in the film. Like definitely there's like samurai with the Jedi, and it's also kind of like a Templar idea, and all these little things, the fall of Rome into the empire, Nazism, all these things. It's a huge catch-all. So it's like there's nothing you could argue there's nothing unique about Star Wars. And when you try to like dumb down the original trilogy to explain someone that doesn't know anything, it's like, this sounds really boring and basic as F.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Now, and
but like you said, but it hits on the human condition, right?
Yeah.
Like
and
like all over
the core of Vader, I was explaining to Rookie, is like, it's both the fall of Satan, Paradise Lost and stuff, but also it is an inversion of the prodigal son. The prodigal son ends up being the father saved by the son. So it's very unique. That's, I think, a subconscious resonance for the West because we're Christian based. So all the Christian stories permeate our stories. And he never heard this.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh. And then we're watching something recently. I'm like, this is like, there's a Superman. There's a lot of elements of Moses. And given that Schuster and Siegel were Jews, it makes a lot of sense.
A total Messiah,
that too.
Undertone in there too, right? This, Yeah.
And Rookie's totally oblivious of this stuff. That we were talking today. He's like, the only Bible story I remember from reading a Bible, kids illustrated Bible, was Samson with the lion and his hair. And so because of that, Last of Us comes in this topic because and Tina, if you're interested, if you're free, because Rev is religious, I thought maybe that'd be cool back and forth with y'all on topics. You have the link to join the stream. But anyway, what do you call it? Last of Us episode 3 was when everyone got triggered in our sphere because the gay Tyrone Magus, like, don't let your kids see this. about episode 3. Never says about the first episodes with like clickers attacking and like having to murder children.
Like a child was killed and like on screen pretty much. It's like that was horrific.
That's okay. But this over here, oh boy.
Right. And and so like Ricky, like we expect like, okay, some people will say woke or whatever and lean that, but we didn't expect the outrage with this episode. We thought like, wow, this is so nuanced because the build, like it is a rewrite by the creator of the game, who is a producer on the show. He's rewritten these characters to both be positive. In the game, it ends up that they find Frank, who died. He ended up actually kind of resenting and hating Bill this whole time. And Bill, of course, loved the guy. Right. And so I was like, well, F you too, Frank. And in the film, in the show, it's just positive. And they show like a year-long backstory of these lovers. And it's kind of a hopeful episode in a very drab, depressing scenario. And so
it's a post-apocalyptic world, and it's been by themselves for a long time.
But also, Bill specifically, they set him up as like a doomsday prepper, QAnon, don't tread on me, America, like wacko, white supremacy. Okay. You know, he's not a white supremacist, but all the things that you hear today as white supremacy, they're dog whistling all these symbols in his abode.
He's like very independent, like he could live off the grid by himself.
And then it's like he's gay, and it's like, wow, I appreciate it. As someone like I actually don't give a crap about the rainbow and where it's at today. I'm not an ally. I don't care. I'm just a person. This doesn't define me in my whole. Right. But I appreciated a nuanced take on a diverse character, you know, given that is the front for, you know, we see the virtue signaling all the time for diversity. And it's like, wow, what a nuanced take.
It could have been, thank God all the straights are dead. Yeah, now we can run.
And so
I didn't do that or not.
It's just the discussion. And Ricky's like, why is everyone so? And I'm like, well, you know, sure, incest and all the other like sexual sins of hetero people are in the Mosaic law. Specifically, there's Jesus defining marriage as lifelong. Divorce is not okay, even though it was with the Jews.
Right.
And but Sodom and Gomorrah really hits home, impressing on people that gay is like an abomination among all sins, that God nuked a town because gay. That's how people read it, black and white.
Which is one of the biggest misinterpretations.
Thank you. I love hearing a pastor, though
because it's not. I mean, yes, there are other passages that talk about the sexual sin, but Sodom and Gomorrah is a sin of hospitality.
Yeah,
not a sin of sexual conduct. Is that they were breaking the laws and the commandments of being hospitable to the stranger and welcoming of people. They were taking advantage of the stranger.
Yeah, but the black and white, the fundamentalist take reading it is like, this should be, burned from the earth, purged, you know. And so like, Ricky doesn't understand it, so I'm like explaining like the story. Also, there's an element that relates to Afghans. Have you ever seen the film Lone Survivor?
I haven't.
So simply, it's a true story about a 4-man team of SEALs that have a mission, reconning a place, and then they get founded by some like local shepherds, an old man and like a kid. And so the debate becomes like, do we tie them up and leave them? They'll die in the cold up here in the mountains if we do that. Should we just kill them? And it's like, no, we're not killing these guys. I'm not going to Leavenworth killing. And it's like, if we don't kill them, they're going to tell on us. So it's this big dilemma. And they take the high road, and it's the captain's like, no, we're not killing them. Let them go. And of course, they get ratted on. And so they get pinned by the terrorists. They send a QRF, quick reaction force, to try to rescue them. They get blown out of the sky. So like another, let's say 20 SEALs get killed because of this, and pilots and stuff.
Right.
And the lone survivor, Mark Wahlberg, he ends up getting found by Afghans who take him in as a guest and treat him with all his wounds. But because they're aiding an American, the Taliban end up fighting this town. So it's like a very triumphant, like two cultures that are blending in this fight against a third, terrorist element. And the Pashto way is very biblical. It's like the story of Lot, where it's your honor, first and foremost, is made by how you treat your guests. And so it's cool to have experienced the culture and understand it, and then see a film that kind of talks about that.
Yeah. What's that called again?
Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. Okay, I have to check that out.
Yeah, let me say hi to the chat. Tina's here, or was here. She says, good evening, friends. We got Keely Chow. He's ready for beef. He's got cows and steak. It says F YouTube. And then we got Stoney McInerney, who says, there was a town full of evil people and God killed them because they deserve it. But yeah, no, going to church keeps me engaged.
Yeah,
with these elements that are part of our narrative core.
Yep. Well, that's why I go to church too, to keep me engaged. So
you don't say. What's up, Karen? She's lurking, but she actually commented earlier.
But Angus goes to church so he can tell me when people have a problem with something in media, and I'm like, "What's the problem?" It's like, "Oh, I don't see a problem thing," and then it's like, "Oh, wait, well, with some stuff, like I was like, well, wait, so." Well, or at least I can understand something. I'm like, well, so wait, why is that a problem? And what? Or is this there's so many things that are religious parallels that I don't see, but I am like, is that one? I don't know. It might be. I don't know. And so is that why it's good, or is that why it's bad? Like, because there'll be situations where I'm like, so is this a good one or not? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Are you watching Star Wars, RevKev?
I watch some stuff. I don't watch everything anymore.
Well, have you been keeping with Mando?
I've been watching Mando. I watched one episode of Andor. I haven't watched any of the Bad Batch. But Mando.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Banish, but yeah, Mando is kind of, for me, it's lost its luster. Right. It feels like it's just dragging now, and it's not focused. But I am liking what I'm seeing. It's just not. The wheels are starting to fall off, I guess, for me, even though I'm still enjoying it. But another controversy is when you watched episode 3, and it's definitely like a tangent story filling in more of like sequel government stuff. Mm-hmm. I loved it. Love the restraint. I love just seeing everyday stuff. I mean, I'm all about the Force in Stars, but I do like seeing other things outside of the Force users, and
it makes it seem more functional.
Yeah, I like how they're layering that the New Republic is already dysfunctional and corrupt in their own way, like the Empire, and they're setting the groundwork for the sequel trilogy and the Resistance with Leia. Right. Yeah. But there is that female character, the gay actress, and people are like, "Oh, it's woke," and it's like we watched it. I showed Rookie, and I'm like, I don't know why people would say this. Like, this is the problem where the left has justification to call us bigots because we're at this point now with like the groomer talk, don't say gay, the libs of TikTok sharing all this stuff, where it's like you see anyone not straight, and it's like that's woke. And it's like, that had nothing to do with the story.
It had nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah, I didn't even know that she was gay until he mentioned that, and I was like,
me neither.
Okay, about it. I was like, this had nothing to do with anything. So what?
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the story. It didn't have any. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
How do you?
A lot on that stuff. We're jumping at shadows a lot now with it, right? Like we just want to hate everything and want to put an anti-woke thing on everything,
or we're just expecting like somebody to come out of the ground and attack us, like fuck, so we're like ready to pounce on pounce
exactly at like both sides. I think every side they're just lost the ability to speak to one another, and we're just ready to fight constantly now. So
it's I don't like it because it feels like you expect the left to have their pop culture takes of it's transphobia, that's this is offensive, I'm triggered. You expect that. Yeah. Our side is like, I thought was all like, we don't care about diversity as long as it's not like checking a box and just a plug if it's substantive. Tell a good story. And then it's like, oh, now we're actually justifying all the istism phobe talk from the other side is how I see it. I don't like to look at my side, my sphere of influence and peers and be like, you're being homophobic. I don't like to say that word. It's cringy.
I guess in a way, a good way to put it is Angus's video about Jeremy's chocolate. That's kind of how I see our sphere now, where it's like he made the chocolate bar that says he, him, she, her, but like that's something that they want you to be talking like anyway. So it's like you're kind of just doing it on their terms regardless. So it's like, well, wait, why is this even a thing? And it's chocolate. Like this is your response. It's like there's like Kit Kats, there's Butterfingers, Reese's, Hershey's. You're gonna make a chocolate bar. Like what is this gonna do? Like
right.
It's just, I don't know. It's like our reaction to some things are like bizarre. It's all reactionary, I guess, is the thing too. It's not like it's not based on what you think first. Right. I guess like when Velma came out, I wonder how many people like that aren't on the left responded, if they responded first or if it was reactionary after to anything or to comments or something. It seems to usually be after somebody else says something is when we're more vocal, I guess.
Well, and I find it for a lot of this stuff too, it's not even when the movie trailer comes out or the announcement of what the movie comes out. It's when the producers and the filmmakers make some comment publicly and they say something just stupid. Like, I mean, I don't know if you saw this clip, like when they were promoting the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, right? And the writers of it were being interviewed by Variety.com and said, we love writing stories where we emasculate men. It's like, why would you even say that? Like just and by all accounts of the reviews of the movie, that's not actually in the movie. Like,
right.
The feedback is it's a decent movie. I can't wait to see it. But when you go off as the writer and you say these talking points, well, then you just get everyone all fired up for nothing. You know?
Yeah, which in a way, I guess, is kind of a strategy, though. It's probably a strategy to get people talking because it's like the thing of somebody's going to defend what we say, and then other people will respond to what they're saying, and it's like that chain effect of like planting a thing for people to fight about, like to fight about or something. And it's like.
Yeah, and what's the social responsibility of that? I think that's what I wrestle with. It's like if you're in leadership, you actually have are you throwing gasoline on it, or are you actually creating an environment where that doesn't happen? So that's just my
I got you. I mean, I try to think about, because I'm trying to get into filmmaking and everything. I try to think about like if I were to be interviewed, like what type of things I would say or how I'd say them, or if they were to ask me a question of some kind, like what would come to mind for it. But I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's like I don't know what type of things would prompt certain stuff. But if they're like, if they ask what kind of stories did you want to make, or what was the element that helped you influence some of the decisions, and if that's one of the things, then I mean, there's probably better ways he could word it, I would imagine. But it seems like most people that are asked questions aren't eloquent.
Well, that's it. That too,
right? Like, I don't know. I think of like when you do the post-game interviews on sports stuff, it's like, I mean, they'll give an answer, and sometimes they can make it sound neat, but it's like it's usually just kind of.
How did you feel when you crossed over that touchdown line?
Yeah, it's like only once in a while you might get like an in-depth answer, but it's also like the questions are kind of weird, so they're gonna try to give an answer that's more than I felt fine. All right, next.
I feel after Ghostbusters and Last Jedi, then it became just like, we're just going to say this stuff regardless, because then we'll have our sphere be like, oh, wokeness, blah, 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 diversity hires, etc. And then the people will be like, well, screw you, bigots. And it's like, it's on everyone's mind. But like, you see what actually resonates, like long term, you can say X is woke or not, but then like people love Last of Us. It's got great viewership.
Okay.
It's all
my
around
son's
like
watched it. He loves it.
Exactly.
I wish the movie 65 had some discourse, because nobody's talking about it at all. But it had no
fast.
It bombed really fast, and there's been no director said anything. There's no discourse about the movie, and so nobody talked about it. But it's like, if it did, they probably would have gotten twice as much as it made, at least.
Right? 65.
Maybe, Hey, let's just get all the sides fighting, and then they'll go see the movie to see who's right, and then realize it wasn't that good of a movie, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I guess it's like I put it as a middle of the road movie, 5 out of 10 kind of range. But it's like That's the one that didn't get any of the discourse, so didn't get the attention. So completely went under the radar, essentially. But the ones that do get attention, like Velma probably had more freaking viewership than 65.
She just got a Medal of Honor. Or
65 deserves it more than this shit. Like,
right.
Yeah. Mindy Kaling got the Medal of Freedom or whatever from Biden.
Are you serious?
And they were touting it because of Ricky shared it to me. Let me pull it up.
Okay. That's crazy.
Like she's literally like handshaking Biden. He's like, I loved your show, Velma. It's great.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if he actually says that.
And he never watched it, right? Like
probably not.
Like, President of the United States isn't sitting around watching cartoons, right? Like
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
It's Joe Biden. He might very well might.
Hey, I gotta give
or something. I don't know. Somebody that talks to him back. So he's like, what do you think? Good job. Like something like that. Thank you, Dora.
All right, let me share this. All right, here we go.
Mindy Kaling.
That's a big medal. That's like destroying the Death Star medal.
Voice to a new generation of storytellers, imbued with humor and heart. Mindy Kaling across television, film, and books inspires and delights, capturing and uplifting the experiences of women and girls across our nation.
Ugh. I feel bad.
Army guys, like, get me the hell out of here.
I feel bad for women.
Well, Army guys, like all my buddies who died in Nam, who didn't get a medal. It's like, what do we give medals for nowadays? That's like a participation award, right? Like all our kids get a trophy when they play soccer.
Literally, which is funny. It was just funny you say that because that happened to me as a kid, getting trophies all the time, and it was you know what? We lost all the time. Like we lost all the time. We always had trophies and pizza at the end of the whole season. But it's like,
well, did your league keep score, Rick, when you played?
They did. Yes.
Okay.
But
because by the time I had kids and my kids played, they stopped keeping score.
Well, actually, I don't know if we did. I know I did. Whenever we'd play, I'd be like, that they have more goals than us.
Yeah.
Like I'd be able to tell. Like that's like, isn't that what you do when you play a sport? Like, what else is the point?
Exactly.
We were never encouraged to do better, though. That's for sure. It was always just like, you had fun, right?
Y'all are Star Wars fans, so I thought you might appreciate this video.
Did he just fart to blast off?
Now this is pod racing. Hey, wait for me!
Don't let your personal feelings get in the way.
This is where the fun begins.
I call it aggressive negotiations.
It's overkill, Master. I shouldn't have done that. It's not the Jedi way.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
That's hilarious.
How'd you like that, Rookie? Oh man, idiotic. That's great. Yeah. There is one to get us in the mindset of Mando that I thought's hilarious.
No, Mom, it's actually not my fault I lost the Darksaber. Oh, shit. Shit. It's fine. Totally chill. Super. Here you go. Fucking, how do people say? Oh, hi. I didn't even see you there.
Awesome. That's awesome.
my comment on the episode is, I'm like, why is the hallway so freaking long? Like,
seriously,
for
right?
not like, what is this for? Like, who? I don't know.
Oh
seemed like a hallway of nothing. There like wasn't even like a gathering at the end of it or not. There's like, nope, there's just a chair at the end.
God, it sounds like I'm in a factory because I got my washer going. I figured it'd be done by now. If you hear that buzzing, that's the washer.
Laundry's done. Yeah.
Not quite. It's in the spin cycle. It's going hard.
Getting there.
It'll stop.
No, what was funny is one of the things. When the last episodes, he had to go bathe in the water to get cleansed or something.
Right.
Like it's coming from me who I don't understand really all the things. Angus explains it. It's like, okay, for the religious things and parallels with that, but I'm like, the way they have it in the show, it's presented like, you must bathe to atone for what you did,
atone for your sins,
which is like he took his helmet off, and I'm like, okay, so you go take a bath and now you're good, like, okay, and then he just goes in the water for a little bit and falls, and then he comes back out. It's like, all right, so I guess that's it. Like, do you need to be in there for a little while?
I guess it's like
quick dip, like
if I'm religious and then I partake of the prawns and then I jerk off, and it's like, oh, well, I've lusted and I've in a way fornicated, and I've contributed to sin, so I need to go to confession, and then after I go to confession and do my penance, I'm good, but I'll have to go to confession again in the future for some other infraction. But it seems like this is like a one-time
thing. Rebaptized, getting redunked under the waters.
Yeah, and it's like, and he's in his full suit of armor, and the whole point is that they don't take their armor off, and I'm just like, so he has to take a quick
and to go into a pool that's like 20 stories deep.
Yeah, well, and then it's like he's got to prove he was there without a photo, I guess, and then I'm just like, this is so weird. Like, I would think for space they do like something like that's similar, but that would translate to space a little bit, like for their type of thing. And as far as a religion goes, I wasn't sure what their thing was. I thought it was just like a warrior's code kind of thing to not take the helmet off. So I would assume that the redemption, regardless, would be like a task that you have to do that proves your loyalty or your devotion. But this is just like, I'm going to take a bath real quick.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't,
and we're going to take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't understand this. This seems so lame to me. So it's just like, I don't know. Like, what do you think would have been more interesting, maybe for them to do for Star Wars? Like, okay, you've done something against the warrior code, and now you must do something to make it better or to prove your loyalty or something.
That's a good question. Anything but go to get baptized in a
like, I would have had it be like I would have had it be where he's got to be stripped of his armor and stuff, just kind of bareback and like has to do something difficult.
It should have been something that took all season.
Yes, I agree. That's a good mission because so far we're halfway through and nothing's happened.
Should have been that's the quest. The quest is to become Mandalorian again.
And that's the thing too, because he's wearing his armor the whole time. I'm like, so what's the difference of you wearing like you're Mandalorian now and you're not? I can't tell the difference when you are or aren't, because it doesn't matter if you are or aren't, because you can still keep all your stuff. Like, I would assume if you're not Mandalorian anymore, you can't keep your armor. That's gone now.
The armor, give the Beskar to the foundlings.
So it's like if he had to be bareback and earn his worth himself without all the tools of a Mandalorian,
rebuild your armor from scratch, or
or just I feel like some type of task would be at least something, and with you having limitations, that would be more interesting, I would think. And he's got to go a long way to do it. He's got to do different things. People get in his way. Like, maybe it was easier before, and now it's even more difficult because things have changed with the planets or whatever. Like, who knows? Like, that could have been tight. It's like, you have to fight a super battle droid without any weapons and your bare hands or something. Like, that'd be interesting. I don't know.
Something to show a commitment to the creed. Because it's not just a helmet thing, right? Because I'm assuming there's probably 50 other things you could break and get kicked out. So you broke one, but so that means you're a heretic now. You're going to break the other 49. So prove to us that you're not going to break the others as well, But it's kind of interesting. Like, with the whole Mandalorian, like even with season 3, for me, season 1 and season 2 was a perfect lone wolf and cub story that should have just stopped right there at the end of season 2, because it was just a good, complete story. Found this kid, got this kid saved. That's the story.
Yeah.
The end. You know?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I would assume it'd be interesting to have like somebody steals Baby Yoda and he's trying to be a Mandalorian, and so he's got like 2 things to focus on, or maybe more than one. I don't know. And he's got to do a lot of it on his own and build up something along the way. I don't even like the show, honestly, at all. But it's like there's a lot of things that could go in interesting directions. They just typically kind of don't, from what I can see.
Yeah. Well, because now it just feels like the fact that, I mean, because we all know the behind the scenes of Disney Star Wars, and nothing's doing well. And Baby Yoda is the only thing that makes money. So they just feel like they just have to milk it. So now they've gone beyond what the original story was. And now they got to figure out how to make Baby Yoda a Mandalorian, which is the dumbest thing, in my opinion. Like it just seems
it just seems like they want him to do a lot. They want Baby Yoda to be anything. They'll probably try to make him a Gungan next. I don't know.
Like anything. Like just because it's the only thing that sells toys. So they got to come up with, we can't just end his story.
I also feel like by this point we're on season 3 now, right? And it's like he's met how many characters? Like a whole bunch of them, and like
15.
I feel like he could. Characters. I feel like if he started out solo, that'd be fine. But then it's like, oh, he's got his baby, and then he's got Gina Carano, whatever. He's got other people. He's kind of making friends. I assume he'd be making a crew at this point. Like if he had a mechanic or an engineer or something on board, he wouldn't have to go back to that stupid lady on Tatooine every freaking time he needs a ship part or something. Stop going there. Stop taking us to freaking Tatooine for that. Like, at this point, you should have his own crew, have his own ship, so he doesn't have to go to every planet to find something. Just have your stuff with you. You travel. That's what you need. That's what space is for. That's
exactly. I go to Tatooine. I go to one planet because I need a droid. But I want that droid. I want the IG droid, but I got to go to Tatooine to get a part. Oh, they don't have a part. So I got to go to another planet to get a part. Oh, and they don't have it anymore either. Okay, I'll take this droid instead. That will
hire somebody else to do this for you so you can go do what you need to do. This is stupid.
It's like, and it's Star Wars. There's billions. There's more droids than people.
Yes.
There's a billion
and Tatooine's supposed to be a backwater, right?
Shot. Yeah,
like Tatooine's the junkyard of the universe, right? It's not like, oh yeah, this is the hot place for actual equipment. It's like, you might find something useful in this scrap heap. Like I don't know.
Yeah. And Jawa's got something from Mandalore. How did Jawas get something from Mandalore? Like it just the whole thing. Just
I want to see a Jawa Mandalorian.
Oh, see, that's yeah.
I love Jawas. No, even better. I want a Babu Frick Mandalorian.
Babu Frick. Mandalorian.
I wish that Baby bit off the head of the Babu Frickian or whatever. Just like that'd be funny. Just like, all right, thank you.
Babu Frick Mandalorians and Gungan Mandalorians. That would be cool.
It's like I don't know. It's funny. Like we say this, but then I think about the Gator battle and stuff, and I'm just like, God, they seem so lame here. I don't know. Like it just maybe it's because they make lasers seem really stupid in the show, because it's like, oh, it does certain damage to some things and then just doesn't like affect anything at all in other ways. Exactly. I'm like, it's a laser, right? Isn't it supposed to at least be like, ow, like
should go right through
something? Like it should at least leave us a mark. But with like a lot of the things they shoot at, it's like it doesn't even touch them at all, and it's like, oh, so
yeah.
I just find that a little annoying, because it just kind of it makes it feel like it's just like, oh, you guys are supposed to be like one of the peak warriors, right? And you can't even do this, and then I'm like, so the Empire, it makes all the factions seem really weaker to me when they show something like this.
Yeah,
I get annoyed that the Empire decimates the. This is like an original trilogy problem. They have like the Empire, the evil Empire, has taken control of everything, and they're squashing a final rebellion. And they got a Death Star, and they have the Sith Lords. And then, oh no, Ewoks destroyed us, and they suck. Like it makes sense that if like, okay, the Death Star, this is like impenetrable. All of these guys are slackers. Okay, this little crew happened to get out. Also, it was kind of rigged to let them go so they could find the rebellion. All right, but then it's just like, yeah, this is an inbuilt from the original trilogy. This is why I'm not an original trilogy fan. There's so many cool things with the prequels that seem consistent, and then they have to tie it in with this original trilogy that's like a cookie cutter story. And so like I have this tug of war of like, what a great human story of Star Wars, but then also the actual world, it like is very convenient and for the good guys. You know, that's why I love Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones is like the pinnacle, even with the disaster of the last season. It's like the pinnacle of storytelling and intrigue for me. Thus far, something could top it, I guess. House of Dragons doing well, but
well, Stony Mick put a good comment there. He goes, like, to be fair to the Empire, U.S. lost to rice farmers and goat herders.
Right? Yeah, no, that is a good point. I mean, that was the whole.
That's the whole point of it. It's not about the technology. It's about the.
Well, it's the delivery though, and then you see like the Mandalorians, and we've seen the Clone Wars how like great they were, but then they get decimated by the Empire. But then the Empire's stupid, and it's like there's no consistency with it. It's like they're great and powerful and can decimate when you need them to for the story, but ultimately they fail. And then you have the First Order and then the Final Order, but then they fail to just and it's like.
Yeah.
What is it? There's no consistency.
Well, I guess it's the way that they do it. Like with the Ewoks, it's like, okay, I'm totally cool with like nature things, defeating machines. That's cool. But like the way they did it was literally sticks and stones against armor, and it was very bare bones. It wasn't really creative in how they did it in some way. It wasn't some type of natural thing they made up or had or combined or mixed to combat something.
That's why Avatar is so good.
We'll throw sticks at it. And it's just like, no, it's not.
Well,
not good enough.
And the old interviews with George Lucas about Return of the Jedi was the original intent of the ground battle on Endor. His original intent was always to put Wookiees in it.
Yep.
But he made them too advanced.
Right.
And so that's where he felt he needed something more primitive than Wookiees.
Right, because he has like Chewie as an engineer kind of a thing, and
exactly they're too intelligent. They can repair spaceships and all of that, right?
But it's like, I guess to be fair, it's like not every Wookiee has to be on Chewie's level either. It's like
he could be
one of the outliers. Right? That's like there's like quite a few of us that go off planet and learn other stuff, but their natives are quite primitive or something.
He was like the Einstein of them or something.
But yeah, if it was Wookiees ripping off their arms and stuff, like that'd be more.
That would have been good.
That'd be more acceptable for a final battle than logs.
Right.
Like I would have loved for the chicken walker things, like if they have the logs like to hit them and it just bounces off the machine. It's like, these aren't gonna do this. Like these are meant to withstand blaster shots. You think a weighted log with some leverage is gonna, or some momentum is gonna crush this thing? No. Right. Like imagine doing that to a tank, and it's like you think that two logs are gonna swinging on from trees are gonna affect the tank at all, other than maybe like loosen a bolt? Like
that's right. Yeah, barely even slow it down.
I would love to see like an Ewok type thing fight. Like a tiger tank, and you see like a big it's like, we beat it, and then like the tiger tank just rolls through, kills them all. Like
it just doesn't even need to fire a shot, that just runs all over. It's just like, okay,
yeah, that's why I love Avatar 2, because like we've seen this. You saw Avatar 2, right, RevKev?
I did, yeah.
Like the whole like third act and the big battle with the whale ship and all that. It's like that was cool and stuff, and they won. Had a lot of loss. God damn, my watch is crazy. But at the end of the day, it's like that was one whale ship, and there's a bunch of whale ships that they got already.
Right.
And so it's like, how long? I feel like what we're building to is like at some point the Na'vi are going to have to industrialize to challenge worthily,
right.
And so they're going to lose part of their culture industrializing. That's going to be like the dread of it, just like Dance with the Wolves. There's this kind of overarching dread of like this is going to go away at some point.
That's right. Yeah, we can't stay this way forever anymore because the world around us has changed, and so we have to adapt accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm going to mute every time I'm not talking because of the washer till it's done.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, it sounds like it's trying to get you, Angus. Like
That's
it's
right,
coming
yeah.
closer.
Yeah, I need to get it balanced so it's like the internal wheels like not quite where it should be when it's in its rinse.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry,
No,
folks.
yeah, we're watching Planet of the Apes, the reboot trilogy. Recently. Did you watch those?
Trilogy. Oh, I love that. I loved all three of them.
Yeah, like honestly, I feel bad. I looked at their box office and I'm like, oh, it made its money and all, but man, it's so low compared to what it should have been.
It was so good.
And it's like this is a perfect example of like a reboot that respects the old and it doesn't ruin it. It adds perfect elements you want in like a modern upgrade of technology and what you can do. And it's like and it's not even retelling the same exact story. It's like using elements of some of the sequel Planet of the Apes ones, but it's doing it in its own way and entirely. And it's like really freaking good. Like, damn, like even Woody Harrelson, like in the third
he was
one,
amazing in it. Yeah,
I the first time I saw the movie, I didn't like it, but rewatching it this time, like I don't know, I feel like I've grown a lot, I guess, with it. And it was like, dude, he's like doing a speech about like humanity being lost with this and trying to save it, and it's like, dude, this character, he lost his son to the simian thing, and he saw the love in his son's eyes, but this is what's spreading to end humanity, so he killed him.
Right.
It's like, fuck.
Like, it was so good.
Yeah, and it's like the little girl that's helping him, her little doll ends up being the thing that infects him. It's just like, oh man.
Yeah.
It was
so
good.
Loved all three of them. Like every
it started because we were arguing. Somehow Planet of the Apes came up, the trilogy, and he was like, War of the Planet of the Apes sucks. And I'm like, no, Dawn kind of sucks. And he's like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, I'll prove it to you. So we watched this. We watched the first one. And it's like, it looks great, but you can definitely tell it's all CGI. And then the second one is like, it's way better improvement CGI, but you can still kind of tell. The third one is like, wow, how did I forget this film? Like, this is on par with like Avatar 2 is like the peak, and then this might be the second best CGI thus far.
I'm not thinking about how these are special effects. I'm like, these are fucking apes talking. Yeah,
they're real. Like,
and even when they show that zoo chimp that's there and he's clearly smaller than all the rest, it's like that looks like an even more real chimp that still it looks different. It's so weird. Like they're obviously not all super realistic chimps, but they don't look fake at all. They look like they exist regardless. And it's like, and capturing the fact that they could,
like, I mean, at the end of it, when Caesar, I mean, spoiler, right? When Caesar dies, it's like I'm ugly crying in the theater. Like I'm ugly crying over a CGI, ape. And it's like, dude, like this was like when you could pull that off, like.
Yeah, I love how bare bones Western the third one is. And it's funny because we're watching the second one. It's like, man, this is pretty good. There's little things where we're like, So like the second one, the whole crux of this unit of people is like, we need power. We're going to run out of fuel. We need this dam for electricity. And it's like, I get really irritated, especially watching Walking Dead, seeing a pretty good apocalypse show where it's like, all right, they're all just trying to find a patch of land to survive on before they're worried about the extra pleasures of modern life. Right. And then like they find Alexandria and it's like they've walled off and they're totally oblivious to like the outside world and all the treachery. They're just living like normal every day today. And and Rick tells them like, you got to stop this. Like you got to get ready. We've been living through this. You're totally oblivious. And they think he's a madman. He's crazy. And then he shows them he's right. And it's good stuff and builds in. But yeah, like with the like new direction they went in with the new head showrunner, the first like episode, they're like running into a museum and they're grabbing old farm tech from like the 1800s and they're reverse engineering it and they're using like simple smithing to make their own versions of archaic farm equipment to like not just be like digging by hand or with the shovel, and it's like I think of that and I also think of like if we're as an apocalypse, once we're like stable, it's like we need to preserve all the books we can find of literature and film and education, so we can like, all right, this is how we'll like train the next group of people to be able to build back society instead of completely trying to like do it from scratch again. Right. Because we have the knowledge, so it's like, oh, like let's make a plane. And so it's like, okay, well, we need this. So we just need to know how to build a plant to heat the metal hot enough to make this stuff. And, you know, like I think of this, and this movie is like, the second movie is written so dumb, is like, we just need power. We need this dam. This is the conflict of like these two tribes of people. Right. And their true
we just want our lives back.
Yeah, like, pretty much.
I'm like, I like this movie, like I said, but it's so fickle. It's, you know, like the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, they were all, however abstract their societies were, they were still tied to the earth. You know, they did all this great stuff with oxen and slaves and ropes, you know, like it's not hard. I mean, it's hard labor, but it's not hard to actually build society again. However, unelectrified it is. It can work. We don't need gasoline. Like, you know, it's like, oh, we can't find people. We need electricity to talk. It's like, dude, Paul Revere warned America of an attack on horseback. Like, you don't need the Pony Express. It's how we send our mail across country. Within the land, we had horses. You know, you just had stops where it's like, all right, we change out a horse and run this horse for like 10 miles and then trade it out. And we got it done.
They make it seem like they're desperate for the electricity to survive, and it's like, man, y'all will be just fine without it. Like,
well, but that's the thing, right? Is it a bit of a commentary though, just kind of on the softness of our culture, like a Western culture?
I mean, yeah, possibly.
Like when we jokingly say, well, that's a first world problem. Well, I mean, like, how many young people today stick them out in the woods and they're going to survive? They take their iPhone away from them and their Nike shoes away from them, and how are they going to do?
They probably won't do. Most of them.
Right. So that first generation in that movie, they're the first generation now. They've had everything technology has to offer them, and now it's been completely stripped away from them, and they're being, this massive fear of extinction, and all they know is what they know. They're not. Education sucked. They're not they've been spoon-fed everything, and now they just want their lives back. For me, that was like totally makes sense from how people.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would make sense too, but like they made it sound like they're running out of power and they will need a new source of power.
Right.
And they make it. They show a scene where like when the person plugs in his iPad when they get power on, and he could see pictures of his kids again, and it's like, okay, so is this the first time in 10 years you've seen this? Or but they made it sound like this was kind of recent, and it's only been 10 years. And it's like, I feel like if it was a longer period of time where they have not had power and they have found a way to get power back on to some of these things, that would be more effective for me. But since it's been such a short amount of time since the apocalypse, essentially, I'm like, this doesn't feel like they sound so desperate. But I'm like, I don't think they should be that desperate yet. That should be that shouldn't be at this point. If it was later and they're like, I haven't seen, I need to, we had so much digital stuff of our lives on our things there. If at some point we can get them up, then great. Then we can start trying to get back to society that way. Like Angus was saying, you do the other stuff first, though, would be would be important. So I feel like they could have portrayed that a little bit better in the movie. Well, but that's the thing too. We're like, this should have been a show. This should have been a high budget show. This is so good.
And this is the thing, because there was a lot of stuff, and it's been a while since I've watched the second one. But if I'm not mistaken, and I could be totally wrong, but there was like clips, like they gave hints of the plight of humanity, right? Because it wasn't just humanity getting sick and being wiped out by the virus and worrying about the apes. Then humanity started fighting among themselves.
Right.
In this. And so there was like wars, because now everyone's panicking and trying to, grab resources.
Yeah.
Right. So there was this collapse of civilization happening while the virus is killing people and apes are mutating.
Well, that's actually the thing.
Again, which made the collection of guns and weapons and power even more, because if you're worried about other people showing up and stealing all your stuff.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the things we wish that they showed more of the world a little bit in the movie, because it's basically the same location of the first film. It's just right in those
just
woods.
in California.
And so, as far as we know, these are the only apes in the world that are this intelligent. And the others might start to at some point, but these are the ones that had the direct strain of the intelligence of the thing. So, and they run into the one zoo monkey, the one zoo ape that was able to do it, but he, learned from people and stuff for over a good period of time. So it's like, that's a little bit of something. But as far as we know, there's only this chunk of apes that are this intelligent in the world.
Well, and that's why at the end of the day, it's not a trilogy about the world; it's about Caesar.
Which is still good, but we like see for us liking the post-apocalyptic area, we want there to be more stuff that they show with it, so it's like more. It's for us, our problem is there's not enough.
It feels overly simplistic for such a cool concept. And we were talking about like Planet of the Apes and like the first one, and I was like, well, we had the space race going. Like the book was from the 50s, but then this film is, using the astronaut element that is in everyone's mind because the Cold War and the space race. A year after the film came out, we landed on the moon. So it's like you needed the template. Like, because I was saying, like, well, there's the film Trip to the Moon, which is like the first sci-fi film. And it's so silly. Like they just like fire themselves in a fucking cannon and boom, we're on the moon.
They're at the moon.
It's just silly. But so they could have made this before. And if they made it before, it would probably have been something like War of the Worlds type of, maybe it'd be that good, but it'd still be like silly by our standards of like where we've gone with space understanding and interstellar travel attempts and research. So I think it was like perfect time to sci-fi element to make that film, but then it's
it's very Twilight Zone-esque movie.
Yeah, and then also it's a civil rights movie because there's the whole like the apes are standing for minorities, and they put the white man, humanity in general, put the white man in the place of animals in cages and servitude to like make a statement. But what people don't take away, in my view, is the pendulum of power, because it's like, there's an element of like, see, this is how it feels to be black in America or whatever. That's like, I think, an undercurrent. But it's like, I see it as like, oh, well, the blacks are in charge in this film as like an idea, and they're just as totalitarian and authoritarian over the oppressed. So I don't think people take away that element of the film, whether that was intended or not. It just shows itself to me. Stoney said the apes are black people. Well, you said it, not me. No, yeah, it definitely gets all sticky when you're like putting on paper, like, well, this is like what they're saying, and it's like, I find it funny on its own.
But it's like I like how, again, like this being a reboot from that era and stuff, how it's able to take a lot of there's a lot of silly elements in the old Planet of the Apes sequels and the whole series essentially, but it's like we're actually going to rewatch those too at some point here, so we can.
I've only seen one and two. I've seen clips and behind the scenes of all the other ones, but I've not actually watched them. But
yeah, it's like consider like we actually liked too how in the first one and the third one the amount of action is extremely minimal, and in the second one it's very good up until the third act where it gets into the huge fighting, and we're like, oh my god, let's get past this and get to the character stuff, please. Like, it's just
the tone is everywhere on the second half of the film. Like, it's very. Even though like the whole setup for us is so underwhelming and simplistic, and it's like there's so much more complexity you could put in this, and but it's still good, and it's Caesar and the hunt and all that, and then it just becomes like, oh, the apes, like I don't doubt that the apes couldn't figure out how to shoot a gun, but then it's like none of them were in kit, so it's like if you got an M4, you got 30 rounds and that's it. Maybe you have mags that are taped together, so you got 60 rounds, but then it's over. But they show it as like they just have guns, so pew 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 all day, and it's like no,
well, it suffers from the Hollywood blockbuster mentality, right? Because it just has to have the big fight,
and explosion stuff here and there to wake people up.
It's a shock. It's a shock seeing this trilogy, and like that one middle part at the end of Dawn is like the stupid Hollywood. Everything else makes sense, is concise. And War of the Planet of the Apes, I'm like so happy seeing where it's like so restrained and minimal with the fighting.
Well, and even like Caesar versus Koba, it was like that whole fight was so stupid to me. But then like seeing his decision when Koba's hanging off and he picks him up and he lets him go, we were like, yes, because it wasn't the Koba. He's like, oh, I'm going to let you live, and then Koba attacks him, and then now he caused his own death. They do that all the time.
Yes.
I was like, I liked how he did it, and we're just like, it's just more of like a dark personal thing with him because of his philosophy is like ape should not kill ape, but he has to kill this ape, otherwise other apes will be killed. And it's like,
that's right. Yeah, he's got to break his own laws.
He did the Batman thing that Batman
he did
refuses
the
to do
Man
with
of Steel.
Joker. Like, so it was like that was interesting to see in War of the Planet of the Apes. That's what is pretty much his whole drive is like he's just like Koba in a way with his vengeance. His wife and kid were killed by this guy. He's got to do that, and him leaving his tribe essentially got them to be captured. Like maybe if he was around, he would have been able to help lead them to safety, but he was gone and going after his vengeance, and they were able to get him, round them all up, and it's like, man, your own kind of selfish thing led to this, and some good shit here.
Very good.
Well, it's funny is Rookie pointing out something that I never picked up on was the transmission, because Harrelson talks about and I was telling him like inverting John 3:16, for God gave his only begotten son, and Woody Harrelson inverts what is always like a virtuous narrative in film of like sacrifice. And it's like, oh yeah, I killed my own son. I put the gun in his face and did it myself. Looked him in the eye and did it. That's how devoted I am. It's a Thanos thing, like with Gamora. And we see it as villainous for this character, but he did like what was necessary. Not even for like I'm going to win doing this. It was just like I have to because he'll infect other people. We got to burn
I can't
all
let
their
this
stuff.
spread.
And so he's like, oh, your mercy, like this is what your mercy will give us. It'll kill us. And I never picked up on the transmission. I thought it was in the air that they were getting infected.
Like
that it turned him, but it was the girl throwing her little dolly to Caesar, and then he picks it up. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then that's the transmission. I'm like, I never picked up on that. Wow. So smart. It went over my head. Normally I pick up on that stuff.
And in a way, it's like this little girl helped cause the downfall of this person as well. It's just because she's one of the people that was driven away. And it's like that, I don't know, it's some weird, what goes around comes around kind of thing, sort of. But in a way that was pretty good. And I loved, it's like Caesar's like, oh, I can kill you. But it's like, man, look at you now. And it's like Angus put it like, nature robbed him of his vengeance. It's like it kind of did. He's kind of lucky in that way, but then
he's like here, he can finally do it, and then he sees he's like lost his humanity, and I like that scene too, because like earlier with like the infected that are losing their voice and speech, it's like, wait, does it make them like retarded now? But then with like speech and communication of humans, of sign language, but then you see that like he like grabs the gun and puts it like, no, kill me. Like he has understanding, he just can't articulate, can't communicate anymore.
There's still some understanding, but he knows that it does start to affect the intelligence. Like it does start to decrease the intelligence. Deteriorate.
But it seemed like with the little girl, like it's still like you wouldn't be totally lobotomized kind of thing. Like you'd still have some type of basic level, but they keep on getting killed before they get to see what happens.
And that's because that's where the original movie with Charlton Heston starts, right? Because that's what humanity is. When he shows up.
But I'm wondering
get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape.
But you see, I'm wondering if with this one, if they're with this reboot thing, if they were to continue making films, if they would have it be as similar to the originals as it is, because it seems like this batch of apes is not as against humans as the ones in the old ones were necessarily. And in the old ones, when they do their time travel thing where the apes go back in time to Earth, when that happens and sets the seed for Caesar and all that stuff, like it seemed to be that it went out of the loop and went to humans and apes work together. So I'm wondering if that's what they would try to do here, so there's no time travel stuff, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I can't imagine them doing the damn dirty apes thing in the future.
No, but I think they were trying to give that imply like humanity isn't going to be wiped out.
Right.
Like there is still going to be humanity, but we are de-evolving.
Yeah, but they would be the second. They'd be the second to the apes, essentially.
Exactly.
What I
and it
figured
wouldn't
too.
be
But
just
I
hiding
figured
in cave trying to take over again. You lose the intelligence to even take over.
God,
right? But I guess the way
his image.
I guess the way I'm seeing it is that it would be more like, okay, humans are going to be less intelligent than the apes, but it's not going to be this hatred for the humans that they do in the future, where it's like, come over here, you stupid human, yeah, you dummy, you know, we hate you, you're lesser than us. I think it'd be like the way Maurice treats them a little different. Like he has more respect for the humans than Caesar does. Like surprisingly, like Caesar was like, oh, the girl, you know, if the girl's gonna die, she's gonna die. She's not coming with us. And Maurice is like, no, I cannot leave her.
Yeah, we're not leaving her here. Yeah,
coming with me. And and so it's like he has more of the line in the sand for I will protect a human compared to Caesar. And it's like, okay, that's interesting because we don't even know his backstory other than he was a circus ape.
That's right.
It's like,
yep.
I just find it. I freaking love this trilogy, man. It's like I didn't know I didn't think I'd like it this much. I had mixed memories of how I felt watching these when they first came out, but watching them all now, it's like, dude, this is so freaking good.
I just love when Maurice is like talking. He's like, he's like bellowing, like
the sign language and
it's like
I gotta watch it again now because it's been a while since I've watched it.
Do it.
So,
I felt bad for the horses though. I'm like, God, those poor horses have to like carry this gorilla and orangutan. Like, oh my God! But apparently they can lift the weight. I guess it's like we looked them up and they seem to weigh a lot less than we think they would. But but it's all muscle. Like there's no fat really. It's just like like a snake probably doesn't weigh a lot, but it's all muscle. Like how can you? Yeah, that's crazy. But
yeah, that's creepy.
No,
you ever seen the movie Life?
The movie Life?
Well, there's multiple lives. There's Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy life. Then there is the Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal life. I think Jake Gyllenhaal's in it. It's essentially an alien fanboy film. It's like pretty much the same premise of like they found from a satellite or something. They found like life or something, and so they're researching it on a space station outside of space or outside of the Earth.
Yeah,
and they're like feeding it sugar or something. And then it ends up like it's all muscle, like at its core. This like single cell thing they're feeding it, and it's just like growing as like a muscle. But it's intelligent, and it starts evolving and becomes like this. It becomes like picking off the crew like Alien. So it's very much Alien, but I just think of like snakes as like that with like it's just muscle, and so don't screw with it.
Yeah, no, I never saw that. Yeah,
if you like Alien, you'll like it. It's kind of like how horror today, because we have all the slashers and stuff, the iconic horror.
Right.
And so new horror, there's almost never like new horror that's like Sinister is probably the last horror film like, wow, that was unique and a new entry into horror, a new vein, or Insidious.
Right.
This one is like, if you like Alien, you'll appreciate this film doing Alien in a new context with a new creature.
Right. Okay. Oh, very cool. I have to see that. Yeah, I never even heard. Like, I've got the screen here. I've just kind of got the trailer kind of running. I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, I loved it.
It's pretty good.
2017. Yeah, never heard of it.
Yeah.
Don't know what I was doing in 2017, but anyways.
That's when we were all growing. That was around when TLJ's coming around. We
maybe that is.
War for the Planet of the Apes came out the same year Last Jedi. So Last Jedi is the last film I saw.
That was one of my first videos. Was the War on the Planet of the Apes video.
Okay.
I gotta rewatch that now, your video, to see like your stupid take.
I'd probably do a video on myself going, look how retarded I was with this. Like, I did not realize how good it was back then.
We'll get a little bit of the topics in the thumbnail. Blockbuster video about to make a comeback. Mysterious reactivation of the long moribund. I've never seen that word before. Brand site, accompanied by a cryptic message, has fans asking if a mighty return is in the cards. A few days ago, something strange happened in a forgotten corner of the internet. The website Blockbuster, long dormant, obsolete VHS rental chain, twitched back into life. It doesn't always work. There's more than a fighting chance that you'll be taken to an error page. But if the winds are blowing in just the right direction, you'll see a brand new landing page accompanied by the text, "We are working on rewinding your movie." To all intents and purposes, it seems to be a sign that the universe isn't quite done with Blockbuster yet. Which is fairly preposterous, of course, because the universe is absolutely done with Blockbuster and has been for some time. A world-conquering behemoth in its day, a juggernaut that crushed the necks of smaller independent stores. Blockbuster took over the world in the 90s and early 2000s, but its glory was short-lived. Netflix came first in its DVD by post guise, and then as an unstoppable streamer and custom disintegrated overnight.
It's kind of funny though, because so many of us would actually rather just get a movie like that now to be old-fashioned. So it's
I go to the library sometimes. If I can't find anything on streaming, I'll check the library first before I rent it.
Well, yeah, there's that too, because they don't always have the things available on streaming everywhere.
Yeah. If Blockbuster exists in any form now, it's as a punchline, a reference to anything too bloated and arrogant to notice the looming shadow of imminent catastrophe. Which raises the question, what is the new website exactly? We can start by ruling out the obvious. There were similar stirrings of excitement last year when Blockbuster's parent company, Dish, filed a trademark application for an updated logo. Well, that simply turned out to be a marketing tie-in for the Netflix sitcom Blockbuster about the hapless staff of the last working branch that itself was canceled after just 10 episodes.
Yeah, an awful show, by the way. Don't watch it.
Oh, it's so bad.
I only watched like a few minutes of the first episode, and it was so cringe just in that. I'm like, I can't.
We watched all of them. It's got to get better. It's just got to get better. It didn't get better.
So awful.
They don't know how humans speak. The same thing happened earlier last year, too, when Blockbuster filed another trademark application for a cryptocurrency NFT marketplace. Oh, God. Again, this was another terrible idea. Again, it came to nothing. Hopefully, by now, Blockbuster understands that it has nothing to gain from simply cashing out its name as a hit of cheap nostalgia. If it's coming back at all, it has to be for the right reason. It has to be a full-blown return. If you understand the history of Blockbuster, you understand its unquenchable thirst for glory. It's almost impossible to overstate just how ubiquitous the chain was at the turn of the millennium. Founded by a wily businessman whose intense love of databases meant that he could analyze demographics and tailor the stock of individual branches accordingly, Blockbuster started opening new locations at a terrifying clip. The branches in the U.S. alone, in 86, there were just 9. A year later, there were 99. A year after that, 351, then 882. By 2005, 5,734 branches were in operation, with thousands more worldwide. And little wonder, not only did branches of Blockbuster have a bigger range of videos to rent than small-time counterparts, but the stores were cleaner and more family-safe. No porn section. And the branding was inescapable as Coca-Cola. For all, it looked as if Blockbuster was going to be a permanent feature of home entertainment. It could have been too, had it not been for the almighty hubris and terrible decision-making skills of its board. Warner Brothers approached Blockbuster with an exclusive DVD rental deal that would have split revenue 60-40 in favor of the studio. Blockbuster rejected it, and the studio retaliated by dropping its DVD retail prices to undermine the rental industry. Then in 2000, Blockbuster made 2 even more failed decisions. First, they turned down to purchase Netflix. Second, it chose instead to partner with Enron. I didn't know that. Within a year, Enron filed for bankruptcy. Within 5 years, Netflix was shipping out 1 million DVDs every day. Suddenly, Blockbuster was yesterday's news. If you kept watching the timeline, you'll see that the subsequent contraction was just as spectacular as its growth. Between 12, there were just 1,500 chains. A year later, 787. A year after that, 54. Just one branch is working in Bend, Oregon. It now primarily exists as a tourist attraction, same way that people travel to visit the ancient ruins of Pompeii. Could this be time for a comeback? The warm advance notices for the upcoming Blackberry movie is a sign that there's a hunger for stories about giants swept aside by progress. Might there be a new Blockbuster movie on the horizon? Something big and retrospective. Or maybe something bigger is brewing. Look at the current state of the streamers, a thin spread of near identical services all hurling money away in a desperate bid for new subscribers. The industry is eating itself to the point of destruction. And when it does, guess who'll be waiting in the wings? That's right, Blockbuster with its endless inventory of Bull Durham VHS tapes.
It said sarcastically, but honestly, I feel like if they play their cards right and timing and location and stuff, they could easily make a comeback, I think.
Yeah. It would have been smart for them to get into theater business.
Yes, that would have been neat as well.
Especially
to give some type of blockbuster feel with it too, long in the theater. Like that'd be interesting.
Were you a Blockbuster renter, RevKev?
Oh goodness, yeah. Oh,
it's kind of like who wasn't a Blockbuster renter?
Yeah,
would be the question for the thing.
I mean, that go way back. Like, but as a single guy, I used to come home from work on a Friday. There's a Blockbuster right by my apartment, so I would pick up, a large pepperoni pizza, 2 movies, and a case of beer, and that's what I did on Friday night in my apartment.
Yeah, our Blockbuster was right by Papa Murphy's, just a few blocks from my house. So it's like perfect. Get Papa Murphy's pizza, get a game and a movie or two from Blockbuster, and you're good to go. Like
and then even as a family,
this is the way.
Yeah, Blockbuster was a regular thing. Like almost every weekend, we'd go with the kids and let the 2 kids each pick out a movie. My wife and I pick a movie, and we'd be there for like an hour and a half picking movies. It was a blast.
In a way, I feel like that's the thing that I don't know if people understand either with this stuff. It's like with the old one, with going into a store and seeing a DVD. I mean, this is where like the cover of a DVD, the art of that, I think is kind of important, and the placement of how they design it, and then you can check the back and see what's on there. And when you're streaming on. The stuff, sometimes it gives the information that you want or need or something, but it's harder to grab you because you can just scroll.
And there's no behind the scenes for almost anything.
Well, that's the thing too. That's one of my big things is that I like to see behind the scenes stuff. And I hate how in digital, it's like you have to go to pretty much YouTube or something to see if there's that there, which it may or may not be. And it's like, how is that not a feature on streaming? But if that they're not going to have that as a thing on streaming with stuff, DVD this is a plus that Blockbuster could have with it. It's like, you want the extras, we got the extras, you're welcome, and have the stuff on the discs. And again, I feel like place a few certain things properly, get a few spokespeople to speak for it properly, get some hot babes in there as well. Have all the shops be have a few shops picked out in big towns or something where they used to have good sales. Stick them next to like pizza and dinner joints that people would take home or something, and it's like or grocery stores or something. It's like you could have a big surge of people wanting to go to there, especially since there's there's Apple, there's Prime, there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's Disney, there's Paramount, there's HBO, there's so many of these things. People will pay for them and not even realize, it's like, oh well, I guess that movie's gone now. Okay, so where do I find the movie again? Well, I don't know. Do I purchase it? I don't know if I want to purchase it. Like with me, I don't want to buy every movie that I watch. I want to buy ones that I know that I like. But in that case, I want to rent ones that I'm not sure that I like. And so, sometimes they're not on streaming. So it's like, I don't know. That'd be interesting if Blockbuster even did a thing, if they utilized online in a way where it's like voting on if they had allowed people to suggest movies that they want to see or something, and if they reach a certain amount of people that have interest in a movie, then they can order some copies, or if they pay ahead of time for it or something. Okay, cool. You can do this, they get a discount or something, and they can get their hands on copies of the movie and distribute it or something, because it's not on the streaming service. Though I don't know how all that works necessarily, if they pay for rights to distribute it in their store or whatever, but I don't know. These are just options that I think that would definitely help sway it in that direction. And it's like, you can have your Netflix, but can you get your, cool Blockbuster bucket with your stupid Netflix thing? No. Here's a cool design with this and your Blockbuster card. Physical things are something people desire again in a way, because everything's so digital now. Digital's fine, but we want a balance of physical too. And so having that option back would be a nice change of pace. I'd probably go once a month if I had a Blockbuster back.
Well, and I wonder too how much kind of the lost sense of community plays into this too. If with all the streaming services, we'll sit here as a family now and try to pick something to watch. Right. And I've got 2 adult children now. Right. And so you're trying to pick something to watch. So you gotta scroll through Disney Plus, you gotta scroll through Amazon Prime, you gotta scroll through Paramount.
The amount of options make it harder to pick anything.
And then we end up not watching anything.
Yeah.
Most of the time. my son will get bored. I'm going to go play a video game with some buddies instead. Or my wife falls asleep on the couch. We end up not doing anything.
Yeah, in a way, Blockbuster makes you choose a choice, and it's like, all right, you picked
it's like,
Legally Blonde, you picked
we're going out tonight.
Bill and Ted.
Like, we're gonna go grab some pizza, or we're gonna go out for a quick bite to eat. We're gonna have some laughs, and then we're gonna go to Blockbuster.
You got 15 minutes to choose your video. All right, cool.
Yeah, like grab a video, grab a game, grab some junk food, grab like whatever,
Yeah.
And then one of the things that used to happen all the time with the Blockbuster here, just up the road from where I live now, like that you actually bumped into people there.
Yeah, I was actually about to bring that up. Like, I actually remember even having conversations sometimes with people in certain sections, like, "Oh, you looking for that game? Oh, me too. Oh, yeah, did you play that one? Oh, no, I don't know."
Exactly. Or hey, did you see this movie? I want. Oh no, if you like that one, you should watch this movie. Like you just
recommendations.
And again, in this post kind of like with everyone kind of what we went through kind of over the last 3 years, and everyone's stuck in their basement.
We crave to have interactions more than people realize.
Right. And it's like this,
and that's a store that people are going to have similar desires in a way, as far as like physical media and wanting to watch like they're interested in movies. You can just go to instead of like a random online person. So here's one in your town, or
my favorite job is minimum wage, but I forgot the Army about a year after I got out, and I bounced from like Walmart, and then went to FedEx, and then I ended up finding this place called Buybacks in Columbus. And they used to have 5 stores. They ended up closing. I don't know. I'd never go up to Columbus.
I think we had Buybacks DVDs or something similar to that.
There was a Buybacks out west somewhere. It's like a random little chain. It's all located
in like DVDs, Texas. CDs, and some of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's all physical media.
Yeah, we had one here that replaced our Hollywood Video.
Yeah, and I loved it. I love going because I love movies. I love like keeping the movies stocked, buying them in from people, selling them, recommending, just chatting. It's my niche. I love movies, and I'm at a movie store. I talk about stuff, and then I want to see that, so I'll print out like the receipt, and I'll like the barcode whatever, and I'll borrow it, and then bring it back the next day for work, and etc. It was great. I ended up getting transferred to the one on the south side, and then some angry customer ran their car into our front of the building, and so we were having to we were on standby thinking that they're going to like repair it, and so at some point we'll be back to work. And then I called the manager, like, hey, what's up with like the store? I want to get back to work and movies.
Right.
And then it's like, oh yeah, they're just going to close that branch. And it's like, what? So then I stuck just doing security and having to scramble for other work. And it's like, that was great. So I had my own kind of Blockbuster experience with that chain for like a year. I wish I would have put more money into like buying up all like the Criterion and stuff so I could resell them online. Because I get the store discount, so I'd have to pay purchase price plus 25%. That was the deal for like working there. So it was like for a collector, it was very advantageous to work there.
Sure, absolutely.
I didn't take full advantage like I should have, because I could have turned around and made a lot of money, and I was I should have bought up all like the Xboxes and stuff and sold them on Facebook.
Right.
Hindsight's 2020. And it's like
that's the problem with it, right? It's like, I should have did this.
Pretty much. That's why I like South Park. They have a character, Captain Hindsight. You should have built the thing over there. You should have.
That sounds hilarious. Here. We got to watch that one next.
I thought we saw that one. That's like one of the Coon episodes.
I don't think so. It doesn't sound Captain Hindsight. It doesn't sound familiar at all.
Oh yeah, they released Cthulhu and shit. Yeah, it's hilarious.
That sounds great. Me and Ricky we'll talk about something. He's like, oh, this is like a South Park. I'm like, oh, well, let's watch it.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's funny because now I'm a little bit ahead of Ricky on new South Park.
Yeah, I haven't sat down to watch I'm watching so many things, RevKev, now. I'm trying to catch up on actual movies and the old stuff, new stuff, and it's like it's tough to keep up, man. I watched all of Scream that week it came out.
Stuck in front of the TV screen like 24/7 if you're not careful. Like there's so much stuff, right?
That's actually hard for me to be stuck in front of the screen like that. As much as I love watching stuff, I don't want to just be watching things all day. Like I
That's
can't.
right.
I feel like I don't enjoy it as much if I'm just doing that all the time. I need to do other things in the day to make it okay. Now I'm going to eat and watch some TV. Cool.
That's right.
But I don't want to just have that be my whole day.
Absolutely. Oh, totally agree. Yeah.
Lies of the Jedi.
Well, it's because I used to do that, but it's like, I'd rewatch stuff though. I'm like, I can't always do that now. I'm trying to be creative too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what sucks about like being a YouTuber is like you're trying to like invest in entertainment to then talk about X thing or create like an idea or a new introspective like essay. But then you got to put the time in to do that, and so then you're not keeping up with the newest thing somewhere else. And so it's like you feel like the boy plugging his fingers in the dam, you know.
Yeah,
it's endless. But where you at with the MCU, RevKev?
I stay up. I'm again. My son's really into the MCU, so I watch everything that comes out for that. Yeah, but it's I don't know. I find a lot of these things. I'm quite hungry for something new and fresh. So I find like Ant-Man, Quantumanium was fine. It was boring.
When was the last time you saw a movie with quantum in it, right? Other than James Bond, right?
Yeah,
I know socialism is a strong word, but we could learn from these ants.
I think it's funny that the only films that come to mind for me is Quantum of
Quantum of
James Bond and Ant-Man. I have quantum in their name. It's funny to me as a concept.
What did you think, if you're aware of seeing like our sphere talking about like there's that one offhand line? By the way, Hank Pym lives in San Francisco, so you assume this guy's been voting for Nancy Pelosi. If you're bringing in the real world into like awareness, thinking about like, day-to-day life of living in San Francisco and having poop maps and stuff with all the homeless. He's a more affluent name. You know, he's responsible for the particle that Scott Lang used to save the world from Thanos' snap. You know, Scott even wrote a book about it. So like they live in California. All right. So they're already probably liberal in the world of the MCU. They're probably liberal.
Right. Yeah.
And then he's got like his activist daughter that is kind of mimicking the like fight for the little guy angle that her dad went to jail for in the first place and lost custody and all that, you know. So when you start adding things up, it's like, okay, here's a reality. And Hank Pym just offhand says something about socialism because these ants are doing it. And you gotta think ants, maybe even with intelligence, because of their biology, socialism would easily work for ants. Everyone's pulling their weight, or they get put in like the waste management until they die. You know?
That's right. Yeah. They'll kill you and eat you if you don't pull your weight.
But yeah, it's just an offhand little like gag, and people are like, Antifa man, they're promoting communist propaganda, and it's like, oh my god.
No, we need ants to go get their own job, and one ant can be an artist, one ant can be a fireman, one ant can be, you know, they can do what they want, you know.
Yeah. I get her to that. But what did you think of Loki? I assume you kept up with Loki.
I did. I didn't like it. Again, I just find everything for me, the MCU has become so formulaic and not overly interesting.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So Loki for me was a missed opportunity. Like it started off great and then just kind of fizzled for me.
Well, I guess I got to this will reflect like why I liked it, and I want to pick your brain being like, you know, your profession is based in, you know, the abstract religion philosophy, and so I see it as and we'll touch back on this, but I see it as a big argument of predestination and free will, and to kind of compare me not being religious anymore, but understanding the story. I think it's very interesting being outside of it and thinking of the character like Judas, where like, if I'm not mistaken, Judas is like a prophesied person, right? The person that would betray him, like what in Isaiah, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That someone would betray
So it's like that lends credence in my view to like the whole what was like the pre-Baptist guy, Calvin. everything's predestined. So you're destined to hell or heaven.
The big reform guy,
before birth, theology. You're destined to hell or heaven. Yeah. Everything's already known, and you're going to do it. And so then that makes us like, wait, so God damns people, and I feel like that's like they just put their foot in the sand and say, yeah, that's the direction we're going. God, prejudges.
He predestines people for eternal separation from Him.
Yeah, and it's like that doesn't.
And that's all. And that's all loving. It's like, wait a minute.
He's like, that doesn't jive.
It's very loving if you're destined. If you're one of the elect, it sounds great. But if you're not, God's a moral monster.
Right, and with Judas and the prophecy, it's like, well, it's like Judas is the bad guy, but it's like, is he? Because he was destined to do that. It's like he had no choice in it. He's the betrayer.
Right.
And so it's like, is he guilty? It's kind of like Gollum in the Beowulf film, Grendel, where it's like, is he evil if like he's born of evil? That is his nature. He can't change it. So is he evil? He's just acting his nature. Yeah. And I love those kind of moral dilemmas within the confines of like whatever, area and time we're living in the society we're in, of like our like rules. And so that's the appeal to me of Loki, is this argument of like, you are the cog to inspire the heroes. This is your destiny. You don't have a choice about it. This is all like the planning. And it's like, that's very interesting to me, that quandary. And then like seeing behind the curtain, like, wait, everything I thought I was doing of my volition was actually just some other guys like workings and fine tuning a timeline.
Right.
Other people find that makes everything underwhelming. And to a degree, I guess I'd agree. I'd have to concede that it makes everyone's sacrifices that was going to be. They didn't have a choice, actually. But at the same time, big picture, this king is kind of a god. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. Because like I was looking up like the Catholic answer about predestination and free will. And it's like, well, because God's power, ultimately everything is predestined, but you have free will. It is a religious paradox that there's no real answer. And that goes back to the Jews as well, believe that. And I'm like, I think it's kind of a cop-out, honestly, to just like, it's a mystery.
It is. Well, and honestly, it's funny because that actually, so when I got ordained, you can actually think of the ordination process almost like a bar exam for lawyers, right? So you basically got to stand up in front of a council. They can ask you a million questions and you just have to defend it, kind of your what you believe. And so this question on predestination and all that came up in that, and I gave the answer of, like I believe in God's complete total sovereignty and man's complete total freedom to reject him at the same time. And they said, could you explain that any clearer? And I said, I have no clue how to. and I actually said, and I can't even pretend to be smart enough to try to. And they said that was one of my best answers because I tried to be a little bit humble in the bigness and vastness of the complexity of this. How does foreknowledge actually play into actual control? Does foreknowledge mean there isn't free will and all of these things? So even in the concept of Loki in the show, so you got Kang who's manipulating everything, trying to control a timeline. But at the end of the day, does Kang truly, truly have the control that he thinks he has? I would argue he doesn't.
It seems he does, because then he's just like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't know what's happening. Whoa. Right. I didn't foresee that. This is all new to me. Like, it's silly, but it's like, I kind of actually, his reaction makes total sense of like, whoa, this is so new.
Right. But the only way that he could eventually end and lose, because he has to lose because it's a Marvel Hollywood movie. Like, he's not going to win in the last Avengers movie, and all the Avengers are killed. The end. He's going to lose. So did he predestine himself to lose and created it so he would lose, or did their will subvert his will? That'll be interesting to see where it goes. But
Yeah, no, I get irritated with like the Judeo-Christian Homeric heroism that's like implicit in our stories.
Yeah,
where it's like big Hollywood, they're never going to just like have balls and be like,
no,
oh, the bad guy his plan wins,
he
fascism,
wins.
totalitarianism, just carnage, death,
Right.
snuffed from existence, finality. We're not gonna do that.
I kind of wanted Thanos' thing to be like him to win that one. To be like he wiped out half the universe. That's it. Like that's done. Like that'd be like, wow, what an ending.
Yeah. And then now here's this new world, and now you got to go and be heroes in the complexity of this new world. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But
yeah. Oh, me and Ricky were talking about this. The angle with the daughter and Ant-Man, where it's like, what are you doing now, Dad? And it's like, I kind of get it, but then at the same time, it's like, did you read his book, his audio book? Did you listen to it? Like you see what he did for humanity? Yeah. Like he's done. Like what else can I do? Yeah.
Like, are you not allowed a vacation after you save the world?
Yeah, can you not get an ice cream cone and watch
like
you
TV? Just saved all of existence and the entire cosmos? Is it okay to hang up the helmet and hang up the tights?
It's almost like they do this as a joke thing I've seen in other things where they're like, you helped save the world, you fulfilled a prophecy, an ancient thing, and now what are you going to do? I'm going to like go work, get a job at an office or something. Like,
what have you done for me lately?
They did that with an SNL skit after the Hobbit movies came out or something. They're like, yeah, so you defeated this thing and it's all bad and you did all this adventure and now what are you going to do? It's like I work at a staple making company and the office. Yeah. It's just like, well, yeah. What else do you need them to do afterward?
Right.
They just did that.
Which is why Frodo gets on the boat and goes off to the other lands, right? Because there's like nothing for me here anymore after this.
Yeah, but it's just it's like with him the daughter's like, well, you need to still do more things. It's like. Do you need to do more things after you?
Well, yeah, I think that's the implicit like Marvel objectivism that's from like Ditko and stuff of like, if you can do good, you have to, regardless of like your want, because you have the power to. Right. So it's like there's this moral necessity for you to act regardless of your own devotion. It's like, I don't know, that seems like. It seems kind of counter to Judeo-Christian principles of like investment,
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like I don't have a full thought with that, but it's just like the pun. I'm like, I don't know if I like that worldview.
Well, so I can see it like if it's in any way like a religious parallel that they try to make with like a moral duty or something. Like, so in their terms, did Jesus do enough or not? Like, does he need to keep on? Does he need to protest the next thing that comes out?
The crucifixion 5.
Did he do enough, or does he need to do? He needs to invent more things. He needs to stop more things. So it's like, nah, he did this part right, and so there you go.
Right.
That's fine. And it's like, nope, you just keep on doing it. It's like Superman can hear crimes probably happening everywhere at all times, but it's like, is he gonna go and stop everyone? No, he's gonna go. He's gonna have a conversation with Lois. He's gonna hang out with Batman. He's gonna.
That's why Red Sun's so cool, because he kind of does it. He stops everything bad.
Right.
And then it's like you're worse than Hitler.
That's right. You become bad because you're controlling everything, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So your tug of war with Man of Steel, Ricky. I've had him experience the mind numbingness of the second act or the second half of Man of Steel, where it's like, I think a pretty solid opening into this world with Superman and his conflict. I think it's a little wonky, especially with that character, to have like the dad's like, well, you don't need to save him. Never, just let me die. It's like, I don't like that, but especially given how fast he could literally just like blink him away from the tornado, or the dog got away and then he like flies into the tornado and catches his dad. Like, there's so many ways he could have saved him after he got sucked up and be like, wow, he just fell into a tree and he's fine. I don't know how he got back.
Yeah, act of God.
Well, somebody said that he doesn't know how to fly at that point, but if that's true, even if that's the case, just him attempting to save his dad would have been neat, even if his dad still got killed. It's like the point was the attempt, the act of of the thing because that's who he is or would care about. But it's like, no, he doesn't want me to be discovered, so I guess I'll stay here.
Yeah. I guess I was going to ask you, what is your tug of war?
My tug of war?
Yeah, with that film.
Exactly that. Like, so I don't like how they portrayed Jonathan Kent at all.
Yeah.
Again, because when you think of the character of Superman, like, so again, the S like represents hope. So, you know, I like Henry Cavill a lot. I liked kind of the setup of Man of Steel. Loved Zod in that movie.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with Zod and his plan.
Loved Zod in that movie. He was amazing. But I think because you didn't have Jonathan Kent representing that hope, small town USA type mentality, like, you know, like, hey, like anything's possible here. You're here for a reason. You're going to do great things. You know, you're going to work hard. You know what I mean? Like, just that.
The dad seemed like he was broody. And I'm just
well, he was a pessimist, right? He's like, I got to keep, you know, the government's after you and this is after you and just everything's secret and let me die. And it's just like, like, how do you then become, then you end
Luke
up with
Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. You just have dark and brooding Superman from that. There was nothing to create that hope Superman that me as a lifelong Superman has been dying to see on the screen. Like, we still never get him because he got it in Kansas. Like, that's where that came from.
When the dude threw a can at his head, his retaliation was, I'm going to destroy his truck entirely to where his business and his livelihood is all effed up now.
Yeah,
it's like, that's awful. Like, wow, you're an awful person.
It was funny. And when you look at the truck, it's like, oh my goodness, like he literally like crucified the truck.
It's like,
I'm
dude,
like, that's his livelihood. He lives in that truck.
I want to follow him home that day and tell his mom or his wife or whatever, like, hey, so I won't be able to make any money for a long time. Well, why is that?
Yeah, and hey, you know,
destroyed
the loan
somehow,
that we have on that truck.
Yeah, does insurance cover that?
$500,000 loan on that truck, and the insurance isn't going to cover it, so we're now bankrupt. Okay, thanks a lot, Clark.
Yeah, thank you, freaking superhero.
That would actually be a funny storyline of like, oh, thank God I can get out of this stupid trucking deal. I had to bankrupt myself, so now I just got a clean slate. Thanks, Superman. Like,
right.
I'd just like it to be the ginger kid was right. He's Dick Splash. As the kid said, he is a Dick Splash.
Like, so that's just not a nice. That wasn't very nice. Again, like, that Superman is the guy. Yeah, people don't like you. Someone throws a beer can at the back of your head. You know what? You just walk away.
Or I feel like he'd do something that would humiliate them in a way that isn't as cruel.
Right.
I guess. Like if the guy threw a punch at him and then it's like, ow, he like let him connect a punch. And it would probably hurt the crap out of that guy's hand.
Yeah, let him break his hand on your side of your face. You know,
like I got a tough jaw. What do you know? I don't know. Like I didn't know your hand was so weak.
And that's what they did in Superman 2, right? With Christopher Reeve. If you remember that movie way back.
I never saw the old Superman.
Seen it. I don't like the first one.
So it's terrible now. Like, it doesn't stand up, but we all loved it from the 70s or the 80s when that came out. But it's terrible now. But Superman loses his powers so he can be with Lois, and some trucker picks on him and beats him up in a truck stop. Okay, that's what happens. And then when he gets his powers back, right? He gets his powers back at the end of the movie. He goes back to the truck stop, picks a fight with the same guy. The guy throws a punch, breaks his hand on him, and he's sitting on one of those bar stools, you know, like at the counter of an old diner. Right. And then he just spins him around at super speed, you know, on the chair. And then the waitress is like, oh my goodness, how are you able to do that? You know, like, you were so weak before. And he just kind of looks at her, gives a smile. He goes, oh, you know, exercise, you know, and it's like, and walks out. And it's like, so that Man of Steel scene is ripping off Superman 2. Like, it's a tribute to Superman 2.
Wow. It's supposed to be a tribute, and it's like, this is scary.
I think so. I think that's what it's playing.
Well, it's clearly connective tissue awareness.
Yeah.
So,
but dude, you literally hung his truck up on a cross.
Yeah.
like it's impaled on a tree, like on all the, electrical wire, like the poles.
Yeah, kind of the opposite message you'd want to send.
So
my hero, Superman.
Yeah,
I plan to do a video because James Gunn, is doing Superman Legacy or whatever, and Geek Culture Explain, which is Comics Explain, he did a video about what he thinks James Gunn should do for Superman, and he does this whole prequel of that video about what the whole story arc of Man of Steel was and the direction and how it's like they wanted to do like Batman Begins for Superman. That's what Chris Nolan was there, and so he was saying like from the very start, this was not Superman that we know, and that and then also Snyder said like his Superman was inspired from Injustice, which is like, oh no. And there's that line from Jor-El where like, he gets a suit and then he's starting to try to fly, and it's like, you'll inspire, or you'll lead others to inspiration or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to make a video with all of
you inspire them to greatness.
Yeah. And I'm going to make a video, an anti-Snyder verse video for Superman with that line, and just show all these horrifying moments of Superman that like is scarier than Homelander as a concept.
Right. Yeah.
Like inspire them. And it's like,
well, it's like people keep on saying like, oh, it's Superman's first day when he's fighting Zod and them, and like it's not his fault, he can't control this. But we're looking at a lot of the fight, and it's mostly Superman punching them into buildings and crashing them through trucks, and it's like that's Superman directing this into the city, like all the time. And I'm like, there's maybe a few that are caused from the bad guys, but like most of it's him just
it's his
choosing to do
damage.
it here, like. Yeah, like just not giving a shit. It's like, dude,
destroys the heck out of Smallville, destroys the heck out of Metropolis, and then you wonder why in Batman versus Superman, it's like, oh, look how evil Batman is. He wants to kill Superman. Like, of course he does.
He's a monster.
He's a monster.
And it's like John Jones is a douche too, because it's like, oh, if he's watching all this happen and the world's a threat, and he's like, yeah, I don't need to do anything. It's like, you kidding me?
Yeah,
like that could have been a little handy. I don't know.
Yeah, the Martian Manhunter. That's why that Snyderverse scene of like, oh, actually, that guy's Martian Manhunter. And it's like, no, he's not, because he was a general and he did nothing this whole time. He could have phased into Superman's head and crushed his brain. Like
it just makes it all worse because he could have helped with so many things, and it's like, oh god, this is.
Well, he could have stopped, with the World Eater transforming thing that Zod was using. He could have helped get rid of that.
Where are you with the Superman doesn't kill and killing Zod? Where are you with that? What's your take on that?
So there's a series, like a story arc in the Superman comic book. It probably came out before. I'm trying to remember if it came out before the death of Superman or after. I can't remember exactly when in the timeline, but they actually had a storyline when a multiverse version of General Zod and the other Kryptonians escaped from the Phantom Zone and came to Earth. And so Superman had to execute them. It was the only way to stop them, right? And what ended up happening was then Superman, with the guilt of that event, he started sleepwalking at night and donned another costume and fought under another costume. I think it was called like the Guardian or something like that, like very kind of almost like a Batman type character, and which was awesome. Like it was one of my top 10 Superman stories in the comic books, because it just showed that by doing something against your moral character, kind of some of the mental repercussions of that was really cool. So killing Zod in the movie, I would have hoped they would have touched on something similar to that, which you got a glimpse of it, like when he kind of just screams and like has like that primal cry, like one of losing the last connection he has to his home world, and 2, doing something so, devastating that he thought he would never do. What's the consequence of that?
Yeah.
And there was none. It's just
I guess
okay.
I also feel like
for a day.
I also feel like I don't understand why he cares about them at all. Like, he seems to hate his parents, but I don't understand. He's like, those are my real parents. Like, he says this to his parents, essentially. It's like, wow, as if we did nothing for you this whole time. Like you're saying, like the Kansas kid is not there really with any of this. Well, and it's like with his first interactions with his people, they're being dicks to him. Like, why they're doing nothing? Why is, I don't know. Like, I feel like they could have done better.
No tie to them.
They could have done better at expressing his interest, or if they did things as they arrived that made it more appealing to join. But it's like, oh no, here's a vision of human death skulls that you're drowning in. It's like, okay, that's not a pleasant sight. Why would I let this happen? There wasn't, hey, we have candy and treats and other things. Like, I don't know.
We have candy. Wow, that'll win over the genocide.
Well, okay, Angus. So candy presented or human skulls? Which one do you think Superman would be more likely to accept? Like,
I think it'd be funnier if you were like that crazy guy that blows up in Dark Knight, where he said he'd get rid of the voices in my head, put lights in them like Christmas.
Yeah.
You don't remember that?
Well, and that's it, because they were just so obsessed on, we need a dark and brooding Superman because that's what people connect with now. Like,
or they think, I think it's because they think it's cooler that being quote unquote edgy, realistic is cool. But it's like, I'd be okay if there was like something that led to that point, but then that's just the point that would be like a phase for a moment, and like for like maybe half of a movie, and then a turning point. That's clearly how you would do it, right? It's like, wow, look at the super optimist. Like, in a way, Captain America, in a way, I mean, he didn't go to the super broodiness, but he went from this, I'm a plucky, I'm a, all for America and everything is all good.
Right.
And then his second film, it's like, well, hold on, you're telling lies and I'm supposed to lie to do this.
And the government's lying and the military's lying. Like, this isn't my America.
I can't trust people, and I got to go against my own government sort of to do what's right. And it's like, oh man, like that was kind of close to that kind of concept, right? But we started at a point.
Yeah, that's where I think that's again where they try to do Superman and they don't understand what they have. They go, well, because Batman's really popular, so let's try to make him a little bit more like Batman. Well, no, Batman's like that because of his background and his story. Like, his parents were murdered in front of him. Like, that's why he's like this. Clark Kent is not Batman. He's grew up in a good family, on a farm, good small town values, that small town USA, anything's possible. Sure, there might have been some hard times, maybe a couple of bad farming seasons that would teach you some perseverance, a sense of community, all the farmers working together so they can make their crops for the year, like stuff like that, right?
That would have been sounds like a good scene to have to show Clark understanding people a little bit better as well, so that he cares.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, hey, I could save us by doing my superpower thing. But it's like, no. Like, if his dad was more... See, this would be a good point. I feel like the dad could have points to back himself up, but it doesn't present anything. And if it was like, okay, I could just intervene and then this would be done. But it's like, no, you'd be taking away the work that like these people are doing that help them be who they are. If they... Like, these aren't the ones where you can just walk in and take their job away. Like, you get, this has to be for them to do. And it's like, okay, that's something like that to present it.
Well, have you guys ever watched Smallville?
That's on my list at some point to get to. It's somewhere on here.
I don't like Superman enough to watch Smallville.
Well, the best part of Smallville is Clark's parents. Like, John Schneider nails it. Annette O'Toole nails it. Like, they're perfect.
Old Duke boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, like, I remember when that came out, I was like, oh my goodness, it's Bo Duke. This is going to be terrible. He nails it. You know, and then when he dies in it, it's like, oh my goodness, like the weight of that was so powerful because he just nailed that good father figure.
Yeah.
Know?
Exactly. So, well, it's like with Superman, this is something that I question sometimes. Angus and I think kind of go back and forth on this, depending on what it is. It's like if they want to have a character be broody, like be like Superman, but isn't Superman basically, make it. Well, it's like because we look at Brightburn or we look at other there's The Boys, we look at Invincible. There's these other versions of Superman that are not Superman, essentially.
Right.
Like that would be like, are there any other characters like Superman in the universe that isn't him, like that you could do that with or something? Like, was Black Adam supposed to be something like that?
Black Adam's kind of like that. Well, and there's in the DC multiverse, there were other bad versions of Superman. Like,
well, it's like, I guess, I mean, if they wanted to show this type of origin and then have this be that kind of Superman, I guess it's hard to see at the end of the film here how it's like how he's seen it all as good. It's just like, oh, all the destruction you caused and everything. Like the general should have been more furious, I think. Whether or not that's John Jones, like he should have been pissed at him. Like, you know, we might have worked together and done this and all, but like you did this horribly. Do you even comprehend the amount of damage? And that's a however much money satellite. And he's like, I don't really care yet. And it's like, I don't, you know,
I don't
not
care
caring is a problem,
actually,
because this is American tax. This is money that you care about America, right? Well, that you just destroyed that, and it's like, do you just carelessly destroy everything? Like you seem to not have an idea of what you should handle with care, like with your strength, like something like that, where it's like, you know, something to drill. I wish that more characters in the universe drilled him that weren't painted as like antagonists or villains or something, like more like, I don't know, like even if his mom had some kind of, you know, inklings of like, well, you know, I know my son, but he's been aggressive since his dad died or something like that. He needs some guidance a little from some wise people, because he's getting a little crazy, you know, in the way he's fighting, a little careless, or somebody to teach him how to fight. Like he's super strong, but does he know any techniques? I mean, Zod had a point. Now, where are you trained? On a farm? You can, you know, I don't know. Like if he went to a monk or people that can use more gentle or more specific ways of concentrating your strength level, because you think, oh, he knows how to control his strength. He has to live in the everyday with people all the time. But when he's fighting, he punches them into buildings instead of anywhere else. It's like, not into space. If he's not throwing them into space, I don't know what he's doing.
Exactly.
So let me look this up. Actually, I want to say this is before I ever got into like YouTube fandom, any of that stuff. I remember hearing about the arguments just like on the internet somehow. It wasn't on social media really. And I want to say Snyder's thing was like, oh, we were trying to go for like a Greek tragedy for all the chaos. Now, I'm gonna try to find that verified. Snyder.
I know there's a quote where he's like, you think your superheroes would be nice and cool if you met them in real life? They probably done horrible things in real life. It's like, well, yeah, maybe some, but it's also a movie. So, I mean, even, I don't know.
Okay, here we go.
And maybe some, but not others.
Here is, I'll share this.
Or if they do have like a dark point, it's supposed to be kind of a point that they learn from usually.
So this is 2013, so 10 years ago. Man of Steel's death toll is mythic, according to Zack Snyder. Have a problem with Man of Steel's massive destruction? You shouldn't, according to director Zack Snyder, as it's perfectly in keeping with the mythical roots of the character. When it was released this summer, Man of Steel came in for a lot of criticism for the sheer carnage and civilian death toll that resulted from the movie's climactic battle between Superman and Zod. With the movie about to open in Japan, director Snyder explained his reasons for the high level of destruction. I wanted the movie to have a mythological feeling. In ancient mythology, mass deaths are used to symbolize disasters. In other countries like Greece and Japan, myths were recounted through the generations, partly to answer unanswerable questions about death and violence. In America, we don't have that legacy of ancient mythology. Superman is probably the closest we get. In a way, it's recounting the myth. Hopefully this isn't a hint that Snyder intends to have a large swath of people die in each Man of Steel installment, just to keep up some idea of mythical scale. especially since everywhere in the same interview, the director suggested the true Superman story is something much smaller and more personal. In many ways, Clark Kent's dilemma is the American dilemma. Wherever we're from, we all have the strong desire for acceptance. When he's young, most of Clark's efforts are directed toward being like everyone else. So the fact he's not like everyone else and never will be is very difficult for him to accept. If he steps in to save everyone, he'll never be accepted as a normal guy. Maybe not as a normal guy, but when he runs into another superhero who's sacrificed his regular life to save the day on a recurring basis, perhaps he'll find himself accepted into a brotherhood or even a league, if you will. Stay strong, Superman. Better days are on their way. So yeah.
Well, and that's funny because in Batman versus Superman, they were very, 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 very like blatantly clear that the big fight with Doomsday was in a deserted area, and they actually repeated that 3 times. It's deserted. It's deserted. It's deserted.
Which you know what annoys me about it? It's like the problem isn't that all these people were killed. It's more that like he doesn't acknowledge any of the deaths. Really, right. He's just kind of like, I'm gonna go make out with Lois now, huh?
Yeah.
Like.
Also, he murders that guy in BVS that has Lois at gunpoint instead of like he could have literally just like broke his arm, melted the gun, smashed the gun with his super speed and catching him. He could have grabbed the bullet when he pulls the trigger.
Yeah, he goes with a more violent way.
he runs him through like 20 walls,
right,
and murders him.
But I guess, I mean, in general, it seems like he doesn't acknowledge the amount of people that end up dying in his path at all, and that's what I find annoying. Is I'd be more okay, and even in Man of Steel, with all the destruction, if he were to like you need a scene in either that film or the following one where he's like reflecting on it, like, yeah, I fought and saved them, I did my best, but like, how many people died? 30,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go do newspaper work.
Like there was, I don't know if you ever saw this, but an old Xbox video game based on the Superman Returns movie.
Okay.
And the way the video game worked, because you're Superman, right? You can't die. Like no one can stop you. But you lost when Metropolis took too much damage.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. So you have to keep.
So you had this, you had that like your health tracker at the top, but it wasn't Superman's health. It was Metropolis's health.
That's interesting.
And you're flying around trying to stop disasters, and if you're not stopping them fast enough,
then you're losing
Metropolis
health.
takes damages, and that's how you lose the game. And I was like, that's brilliant.
That is brilliant.
Because that's what his nature is like. Like, and so like you're flying along, you're trying to do something. Oh, but there's something there. You got to stop that at the same time. No, this is happening. I got to punch this guy. Oh man, it hit the crane by accident. I got to stop the crane from falling while blocking this punch.
It's kind of like in Civil War, like it's brought in the Captain America Civil War. It's brought to their attention in a very good way, where it's like, okay, you guys saved the day, sure, and you didn't cause the destruction, but look at how you saved the day. Could you have done it better? Did the Hulk have to slam into the building and have the rubble fall onto people's cars and almost crush some of them and do this? Like, could you guys have done something else that could have been a little more efficient? Like, is that a problem to be a little more efficient in how you do your? I mean,
they were already pretty efficient cordoning the entrance of the Chitauri. Like that's what's funny too is like people can be like, oh, well, that's just the MCU. Influencing your view of Snyder's grand vision because he got like the weird people that just sniffing his farts all day. But with Avengers, it came a year before Man of Steel, and they acknowledge, without this being an argument in the internet, maybe with nerds in comic books, but not mainstream films at this point, they and right away are like, all right, we're gonna like contain them in this like block radius. We're gonna try to at least. And then you see Man of Steel, it's like, what? Carnage, and it's just like, oh, I'm sad. I had to kill someone.
Yeah,
and it's
they were just trying to do other options. Cool, and
he was more sad for Zod's death than he was for the like 30,000 people that were killed in this carnage. And it's like that's the thing that bugs me. Like in BVS, if there was, I hated how they're like, yo, there's nobody there, okay? There's nobody in that building. It's like, That's not the problem. It should be better with there are people there. So while you're fighting, you've got to be doing a little bit better to try to make sure they don't die in the process. That's kind of even if you don't save them directly, to punch the monster in a different direction if you can, or to do something like just try to direct him somewhere else so it's not harming the people. Or okay, this is what Batman should be doing while Superman's fighting the thing. Like Batman's clearing people out as best he can. Like, okay, I need to get you out of here, you know, because like I can't fight that monster, but I can zoom around in my car and you know, try to get people out of buildings at least and get them to safety. Like something. Isn't that what the Flash is supposed to do half the time? It's like so that's a way to that's the way. It's a way to like nerf him. It's like, okay, so there's a huge thing that people have to fight. The others are going to fight him. Well, you go deal with saving people because you're the quickest, and that takes you out of the fight. So it's not as OP like a battle here. It's like, okay, it makes it more difficult, and that's an element that's important. That's why taking people away from the situation, I think, kind of makes it worse. Which is why I think, even though Joss Whedon did it kind of stupid in his Justice League film, but I get the intention of like having people somewhere in the conflict like is supposed to make it better. That was awful how he did it, but like
he did it literally on a shoestring like timeline of like this is going out. You got
there's a family near the spot where the bugs come in. Okay, all right, here they are,
and they just kind of move them.
But it's like, okay, there's a sense that there's people to save, and so it's like, okay, that's good. And that's a good way to keep them busy. And so I hope that they don't have Snyder be like, you just, you know, clear out the buildings and then they'll be fine. Or any bad guy, destroy them with heavy justice. Like in at the start of his film with the Wonder Woman scene. It's one thing to point out when she punches them and there's blood all over the walls because she cracks her skull against it. But then like when that one guy is going to fire at her, she does her like her bracer, like blast move, whatever you call that, where she smashes them together to take out one human gunman. And like it knocks out the walls.
My hero.
It knocks down the walls of the building, which could maybe screw up the structure of the building. The debris gets onto the cops.
Like she used that against Doomsday. Like that's like
that. Well, that kind of stuff could have like you know maybe some of the cops inhaled the debris from the crap she just did, and they get sick and die. Like I don't know. Like they got injured because she was careless. And
thanks, Wonder Woman. I'm now a asbestos survivor.
Like thanks, Wonder Woman. Yeah, we could have just you could have just ended this cleanly, but you decided to be a stupid bitch about it.
Also, doesn't she get shot later and it like bounces off of her because she's?
Well, I don't know because in the movies they show that her sisters all can get shot with a bullet and killed, and I don't know.
But she's a special. She is like directly from like Zeus or whatever was helped make her.
Yeah, it's I don't know because she can get punched by super beings and not killed, but yeah, so I assume she's bulletproof. I think there's a comic thing I saw on Twitter that showed like Superman's like, why are you deflecting all the bullets? Aren't you like impervious to bullets? She's like, okay, watch, and then like the bullets jiggle off her boobs. It's like
I think that's why
I don't. So that's why I deflect them. He's like, carry on, all right.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
But no, before you go, if you still got a little time for the other,
I do have to run. Got to start to crash soon.
Yeah. Oh no, me too. But I just want to get this before you leave because I was asking about the MCU. So Victoria Alonso, you've been following this news?
Loosely. I kind of was reading up about it a little bit, but yeah.
So she is fired. And all these grumblings we've been hearing for the last few years, specifically with Marvel timelines in CGI, seems like she's directly responsible and a real B word.
Okay.
Let me see where it goes. 8 days later, after the Oscars, she was fired as Marvel's president of physical production, post-production, VFX, and animation. 3 individuals familiar with the matter told Variety. The shakeup came as a surprise to many in show business and within the vast Marvel fandom. Alonso's dismissal has raised numerous questions about behind-the-scenes workings at the prized content engine, and with them, another unfavorable news cycle as Disney CEO Bob Iger attempts to stabilize its parent company amid economic unrest. While the cause of Alonso's termination is unclear, the sources said the decision was made by a consortium including human resources, Disney's legal department, and multiple executives inside Disney Entertainment, including Alan Bergman, Alonso's longtime boss, Kevin Feige, felt mired in an impossible situation and ultimately did not intervene, one source added. Alonso was blindsided, another insider added. A representative for Alonso declined to comment. Alonso joined in 2006 when Disney acquired the label for $4 billion. Over 17 years, she has been a fixture under Chief Kevin Feige, standing beside Feige's right hand and co-president Luis D. Esposito. Simultaneously, she worked to become a brand of her on her own, a rare, openly alphabet person and woman of color. Wait, woman of color? What? What are you talking about? She's not a woman of color. She's a white Latino, if anything. She has been honored by media watchdogs and visual effects communities alike, and is about to publish a memoir about her corporate ascent, aptly titled Possibility is Your Superpower, which is coming out from Disney. Where then in all of the multiverse did this dramatic fracture occur. Numerous sources familiar with Marvel point to the tremendous pressure that the unit has been under over the past years to deliver compelling content, not just to theaters, but also in the form of new streaming shows for Disney+. In 2021-2022, Marvel unloaded an unprecedented torrent of comic book adventures, releasing 17 titles, 7 movies, 8 streaming series, and 2 TV specials over 23 months. That breakneck distribution schedule, a product of the pandemic and need to constantly feed Disney Plus, was not of Alonso's making. Marvel was far from the only studio tasked with delivering feature-level content for newly launched streaming service, but it was Alonso's job to get each of these titles through Marvel's gargantuan post-production process. By the summer of 2022, cracks began to show in the company's seemingly impervious armor. Starting on Reddit, followed by a series of stories published across the internet, visual effects artists began to loudly complain about Marvel's demanding post-production schedules. Complaints range from unrelenting overtime to chronic understaffing to the inability to avoid delivering substandard work due to constantly changing deadlines. Some single out Alonso as a kingmaker who would blacklist artists who have pissed her off in any way. One visual effects artist recently told Variety that the biggest issue for them was Marvel's inability to provide clear guidelines. The show I was on really struggled because it was an established character whose powers were reconceiving for the MCU. They were reconceiving. The artist said on the condition of anonymity, most complaints, they say, came down to one refrain: Marvel doesn't figure shit out beforehand. A different senior VFX artist threw cold water on the idea that Alonso would single out individual artists. The idea of a very senior executive terrifying rank and file artist, per some reports, feels a bit off. She was the epitome of professional, knows her stuff. Still, the drumbeat that something is rotten in the state of Marvel only grew louder with the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, a film that finished shooting over a year before it was due in theaters and still weathered repeated criticism for generic visual effects that looked like CGI glop and were very flat and cruddy looking. Even more critical, the movie has grossed $463 million globally to date, the worst performance of the Ant-Man franchise. And I figure that means that it will struggle to break even in its theater. I love seeing that. I love seeing them fail here and there. That's the wrong trajectory for a studio that Disney has come to rely upon, an unshakable box office cash machine, one whose films has grossed over $28 billion at the box office, especially as Iger makes plain he's cutting costs across the company. Yeah, so looks like chinks in the armor. What do you make of all that, Rev?
You know what? Someone's got to start losing their jobs there because of all this. I mean, no, but it's true. Like the last several things have not been good. I mean, Ant-Man wasn't good. Wakanda Forever wasn't good. The stuff on Disney Plus. I mean, Hawkeye wasn't good. She-Hulk wasn't good. Ms. Marvel wasn't good. Like they're
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. Oh, like I don't even, man. That was
one of the worst drops, I think.
That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, period.
Yeah.
Like it was so bad. Like the fact that more people aren't being fired isn't like, that's for me what the news is. You know, like back before before I was pastoring, I used to work in the computer industry. I was a computer consultant. if I was making as many mistakes in my computer consulting business as what's coming out of Marvel, like I would have lost clients and been fired long before any of this. So the fact that this is starting to happen, it's a long time coming. Like,
yeah,
honestly, like,
yeah. Well, she's famous for saying, "Why do they call them X-Men? That's outdated.
Right,
Should be
I remember
X-People." Yeah, she's. So I think a lot of this, like ever since I've been aware of her, like the first time I knew of her name was Iron Man 3, but I guess she's been around from the start. But it seems like if you've ever seen House of Cards, if you haven't watched House of Cards on Netflix.
Yeah, I've seen some of it, not all of it, but yeah.
Yeah. So spoilers, it's like a 10-year-old show now, but spoilers, the egalitarian relationship between Frank and Claire, it's kind of like Ricky Bobby and his buddy in Talladega Nights. It's a slingshot. He's using his manhood to then shoot her up to be president, to like break the glass ceiling for women. And that wasn't a bad plot, but it ends up becoming, because of Kevin Spacey getting nixed from Netflix, it turned into like kind of woke propaganda of like Me Too shit. But yeah, that's what I was expecting, that like at some point she would take over Marvel, and it's like, oh no. And then you see like she's clearly one of the like top people at Marvel now. So I think that's where the wokeness comes from. But yeah, hopefully with Iger and the economy, hopefully this gets cleaned up where it's just like, we need to make money. We can't be pushing our propaganda that we want, because we're not going to make money, you know, like we don't have the luxury. We're getting into like a depression economy. So, you know, like,
well, that's it. It's fewer movies, better quality. Like that's what you do, right? To make money.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it's a good sign ultimately. Like I want Marvel to make good stuff. I love this genre of films. It's fun to like, it's popcorn for a lot of retards and normies, but like us, we have these like discussions about moral dilemmas because of these cartoons, essentially. You know, like there's a real depth to them. That's why they spent $4 billion to buy it in the first place, because there's something intrinsically there to like have discussions. And it, you know, the whole like, it's not cinema, it's just a roller coaster, like that's BS. There's real stuff
absolutely
here.
Yeah.
But yeah, in closing, letting you go, I wanted to ask, I remember you were on a stream like a year ago, and I asked if you like checked out the website I sent you, the free site with like the scans or whatever of all the comics.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're like, well, I won't use it because it's like stealing from the artist or whatever. But I wanted to like counter that, like if that was going to be your angle, that you can buy the comic and then just use the website for the comic you bought to then do like a more professional, like instead of like, here's the book, look at the picture, you could actually just, you know, have the images from the download.
Which I'm thinking about doing for some of my stuff. I'm going to review at some point, is get the copy, and then, or I think it's already sent me copies for a lot of them, so I can but then I can for a review for the video, I can use the screenshots.
I sent you random issues, and then you can go on the site and read the actual whole story. Is like
exactly and those are something that I want to start. I've been kind of contemplating getting back into doing a few things like that on my channel, because I'm giving Superman a second chance, and so
I was watching.
I don't know, like I
didn't he have his chance?
You know, like I'm just a sucker.
Krypton had his chance.
So a new Superman series starts. Okay, I'll give that 5 issues. Let's go. Let's see what they do. So
you don't want to see Superman. You don't want to see Superman protesting climate change at the beach.
I dropped that series so fast. And this is again, and then I take a lot of flack for that, right? Because again, I'm an evangelical pastor, so you get, you just didn't like the bi thing or the gay thing. It's like, it had nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. You have Superman protesting climate change when Superman has the power and the capabilities to go and get a frozen asteroid from space to make fresh water for an African village. It's like he's actually the solution to a lot of the stuff he's protesting. So just go do it. And again, be that model of hope for other people to follow you. It's very, very easy in our culture to just hold a sign and complain and expect someone else to do the work.
Well, we have to have Superman do that so that people that read it want to do that too.
Right.
They don't want to have solutions. They just want to have them be there to show them.
People need to get off their butts and be part of the process. Get off your butt and do the work.
Yeah, that's actually what I find funny too. Like people see protesting, which sometimes is good to protest, but they see protesting as like, that is my work I'm doing, is protesting.
Yeah,
no, but like, what are you doing? I'm protesting. No, protesting is complaining that other people aren't doing their stuff properly, which is good to do. But that's like that's not the work. That's not the work part. That's like complaining about how the work is being done part. And then if you want to make a difference, then you go and do stuff. And it's not
Superman's role to do that.
That'd actually be a waste of his time, I feel.
And his talent and his ability.
The government.
Yeah. Right. So when I just
and especially when other countries use climate change stuff, like they affect the climate more than America probably.
Oh yeah, if anything, Superman would go nuke China and all their like strip mines of coal and stuff. You know,
first, in America is not going to save the environment.
We make like Rogan pulled it up on a recent stream. Like, what do we produce in emissions versus China? Like, we're like. With the size in our industry, we're like a fraction, and China is equal by themselves to like the next like 5 countries.
And Canada's even less, like with all the stuff that we talk about up here that we have to do to combat climate change. And again, I think it's good to be wise and it's good to be good stewards and all those things. But
yeah.
Just not in a Superman comic. Go kick Brainiac's butt or like something like this. Do something more interesting.
He should be, when the next asteroid comes hurling toward Earth, slow it down, bring it into the atmosphere yourself, and then make that into water.
Exactly. The big giant chunk of ice.
Harvest the elements the elements for building, making buildings and other locations, and utilize its materials.
Exactly. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on with us. I look
it's good. Glad to be back. It was a lot of fun.
Heck yeah.
Anything you want to promote coming up with the channel before you go?
Really, my channel has just been about all the nerdy stuff that I'm in. It's kind of just kicks and giggles. I do it just for fun. That gives me an opportunity to meet some great people all over the place. I've just recently gotten back into D&D. So I've been making a lot of videos about that, which have been catching a lot of people's attention, which has been fun. And I may start live streaming again. I might start painting miniatures. Just kind of come hang out with me while I paint miniatures, and we'll talk nerd stuff while I paint. So thinking about starting that up again.
Sweet.
That'd be fun.
For fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and appreciate people that popped in the chat. Appreciate if you come in for the replay, and I'll see you Tuesday. I got another Comic Skate stream. Me and Chris Fisk will be hosting cool looking campaign. Let me look up the name really quick. Rev, you should tune into those sometimes. I don't know if you are in the Comic Skate Indiegogo like Kickstarter stuff, but
I haven't, but I probably should, because Marvel and DC comics are just not cutting it for me anymore.
There's some good gems, and not everything's fantastic, but there's a lot of good new material for stuff for sure.
Let me share it really quick so you can see. This will be who I'm hosting Tuesday. It's called Death Raider. I just had me scrolling. I saw I think a short that he was posting on Twitter promoting it, and I'm like, this looks awesome. Show you some of the art. This is from Rob Hunter. I don't know what his background is before doing Comicscape, but this is one he was posting. I'm like, what is that? And then you see like some of this art. It's kind of all over the place with like it's fantasy, but then it's realism. Like some of these interiors, like wow, like he's you would think maybe this is like he got photos and then just like sketched them and then did all his own, but like this is like fluid, so it's probably not just photos that he's done art for. I'm just like, wow. So when you look, so he's got digital, so that's why I'm telling like, hey, $7 you can get
right
some of these comics. $10.
That's what I find
$7.
the killer on, especially to ship these things to Canada. It's like $25 shipping sometimes. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here is the link, and I'll send it to you in the DM, Rev.
Cool.
There we go. Yeah, but I'm active again, so I plan to be watching your stuff more. I mean, I'm subbed to like 400 channels, so it's just whatever pops up when I look at my sub feed when I'm free
I know,
is what I'm watching. But
right, yep.
Yeah, you're one that I'm like, what's RevKev doing? I haven't seen him in a while. Because I know you're busy with, your work and stuff. So.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this more and more. Like I said, I've been a little bit more consistent for the last couple of months, and channels has just exploded. I got like 700 new subscribers like in the last month.
I saw you just put. Yeah, I saw you posting your like stats, and I'm like, what is RevKev doing? So then I started scrolling through your channel, like, oh, okay, he's taking off in this little niche. That's cool. I'm not a D&D guy. Like I played Magic, so I would like to get into. I don't play it now, but I would.
Yeah.
I'm totally prone to that. I just never had anyone to guide me into D&D. I would love to do D&D. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah.
Duty D&D.
Anyway, thanks for joining. See y'all Tuesday. Get ready to back. What was it called? Still Death Raider. I know it's Rob Hunter, but yeah, Death Raider.
Weren't you going to show me some memes for me?
Oh, well, yeah, Rev, you can say if you want, if you got to go.
Yeah, I got to head off because that alarm's going to go off in about 5.5 hours. So
okay,
I understand that.
Sleep, buddy.
All right, good to talk to you guys.
You too.
Yep.
All right, good night.
Pull up some of these videos. Where'd it go? Chat. There we go. That one. Nope. Scroll up. Actually, no, I didn't really have memes to show you, Rookie. It was things I thought.
Well, you wanted reaction.
Reaction to. Oh, there's one. Okay, I'll show you this one.
You said you didn't want me to look at the beef.
You may have seen this, but I don't know if you have.
Can you tell everyone what you smell like?
Yes, of course. Go for it.
Dick. It's dick. He doesn't smell dick. It's dick. It's dick. It's not dick. It's you smell like a perfume. Do you know the name of the perfume you're wearing?
Giorgio Armani or something. I don't know.
Very classy. Very classy. And did you listen to any songs while you were getting ready today?
I listened to OMG by New Jeans so I can get more credit with the K-pop stands on Twitter.
What a bitch. I'm gonna fuck him. So basically I've forgotten all of my questions now. Oh dear God.
All for AT&T. Wow. Okay. Shit. I hope she still has her job. That's interesting.
Here's the other one. Okay. Let me pause it and share.
She had something on her mind. Like Chris Randolph trying to do a Suicide Squad review.
What? You're so cute. You rub it here. You make it. I like this one. What?
No, I was expecting something to have. I was expecting it to have like blue puke come out of its mouth or something. Like it's like, oh, ew.
Yeah. No, that was all that I shared. Well, I'll have more next week.
No, that's so underwhelming. You made it sound like you had like a lot of good.
I thought I had more. Whoops.
The lies of the Angus.
Yeah, but that's it for now. Ricky, cool to hang out and watch that episode.
Hell yeah.
What was it? What was the South Park?
The Coon is one of the Coon ones. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, see you guys Tuesday. Thanks for joining, watching the replay. Sub to RevKev, link in the description. Talk to y'all later.